All right. Before we get started on the call to order, we had a shock in the city 2 weeks ago. Mary Zink passed away. Mary was a longtime Board of Registrar member and the wife of our Inspector of Wires. Known to many of us, and Parks Commission President Kim Turner had just been working with her days before on a garden in memory of her Dave's late daughter. So before we proceed, I would like to remember Mary with a moment of silence. Thank you. Thank you. Let's call the roll, Richard.
Okay, the roll for the meeting of May 10th. Councilor Vogel.
Present.
Councilor Wallace.
Here.
Councilor Zede.
Here.
Councilor Devlin is absent. Councilor Khan.
Present.
Councilor Lane.
Here.
Councilor McCauley.
Present.
Councilor Connell.
Present.
Councilor Shan.
Present.
Councilor Tonta.
Here.
And Council President Argument.
Here. Okay, we have a bunch of late files. Tell us about them.
Well, we have 5 late files. We have communication 326, which is a communication regarding Hale Street, the pedestrian and bicycle proposed improvements in the CIP. We have communication 327, which is Hale Street also, but it's with respect to the fence in the wall near Squires Glen. We have Ordinance 73, which actually was amended in committee. It's already in to the council, and it's with respect to storage warehousing. It's a zoning amendment. We have communication 328, which is a petition with respect to 25 miles per hour ferry and Laurel roads in that area. We have a late file appointment 246, which is to appoint Gary Calderwood as the acting building commissioner. And that is it for late files.
Motion to waive the rules and accept the late file items.
Second.
Any debate? Let's do a roll call on that one.
Roll call for waiving the rules to accept. Councilor Vogel.
Yes.
Councilor Wallace.
Yes.
Councilor Zede.
Yes.
Councilor Khan.
Yes.
Councilor Lane.
Yes.
Councilor McCauley.
Yes.
Councilor Connell.
Yes.
Councilor Shan.
Yes.
Councilor Tontar.
Yes.
Councilor Argument.
Yes.
Very good.
Thank you. Okay, next we're going to go to public comment, but to foreshadow, after that, we're going to have the mayor's comment. And during mayor's comment, Ethan Manning is going to be made a participant so he can run a slideshow. We'll get a presentation by the mayor on the budget. So just so you know what's going on. Now for public comment, for those who haven't done it before, please raise your hand electronically on your Zoom thing and state your name when you're called upon and your home address, your residence, and then you get 2 minutes and you can cover anything that's on our agenda. As long as it's on the agenda, you can address it. It doesn't mean we're going to get to it, but that's how we know that it's in order. So the first person I have is Carrie Sheeran Perry.
Hi there, Councillor Igerman. Thank you for hearing me this evening. My name is Carrie Sharon Perry. I'm a resident of Newbury, Massachusetts. I am CEO of Community Action, Inc., which represents the communities from Haverhill out to the seacoast, which including Newburyport. As many of you know, we have a Head Start Center, which is an early learning center located at 447 Merrimack Street in Newburyport. In a normal year, we are educating around 36 children in that center. In addition to that, we have parent meetings, we have parent classes, and we are doing pretty amazing things in a center that many people drive by and don't even know what's going on. Head Start is part of the Community Action Program. We represent low-income families in the region. We are educating some of the most at-risk families in mostly Newburyport, but we have families from Salisbury, Amesbury, and the surrounding towns. Newburyport has been a tremendous partner of ours for the past couple of decades. We share a playground, as you know. We have purchased the equipment and we maintain the playground, but we are thrilled to be part of the park system. Your system here, your park system, has been kind enough to help us with plowing. Obviously, we share sidewalks, and we have great neighbors who are residents of Newburyport as well. So what I'm asking for tonight, I see on the striping plan that you're putting the crosswalk back in, and I'm grateful for that. The crosswalk on Plummer Street is such a critical tool for our early learning staff, for the families that we serve. It keeps everyone's blood pressure a little bit lower when they're trying to cross children who are being dropped off at the center. So thank you for keeping our crosswalk in mind when you're doing the restriping plan. The one thing I'd like you to consider, though, is I know the safety zone is part of the agenda this evening, and I would really appreciate if you could consider extending the safety zone to include part of Plummer Street and to go past my center, so that when these 36 children, hopefully when we start up again in September, we're going to have a class of 36. When they are dropped off in the morning, they have the needed protection of slowing people down on both Plummer and Merrimack Street. As you know, thousands and thousands of cars are passing by that center every day. And we just want people to be aware what we're doing in that building. We're educating some beautiful minds, and we're caring for lots of great families. So we just want to make sure we're doing that safely and in partnership with the city.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate the time.
No problem. Next is Jamie Knapp. Let me talk. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is James Knapp. I live at 24 Cutting Drive. And I just wanted to follow up. I spoke a few meetings back at the beginning of April, asking about an update on the striping for the remainder of High Street that goes down all the way to Atkinson. I understand that the mayor was working on a plan to be released by the end of April. I'm not sure if that's been made public yet for additional comment, but just looking for an update on that now that the high school is done and that the focus has been put on Merrimack. I'd like to see the focus get put back on High Street, since it's been 2 years since the debacle first began. Thank you.
Thank you. Not seeing any other hands. Okay. So we're going to close public comment. I'm going to go to, whoop, nope, here's one. Jenny Donahue, go ahead.
Thank you, Councilor Eigenman, President Eigenman, and City Council. Jenny Donahue, 18 Cherry Street, Newburyport, also chair of the Newburyport Commission on Disabilities. And I know that the safety zone is on the agenda and the restriping on Merrimack Street is on the agenda. And I actually thought there might be a little more public comment about it. So I apologize for not raising my hand sooner, but I guess I just wasn't expecting it to end that quickly. So I just wanted to add, and I've spoken at least one of the other meetings about this, the importance for the infrastructure that's needed for the crosswalks and the ramps. And I'm in great favor of it being zoned a safety zone. I agree with the first speaker. I'm sorry, I forget her name, from the Community Action and Head Start, that it would be a good idea to extend it to include that area. That just seems like a no-brainer. So I hope that gets discussed. And I definitely am very eager to make sure that, you know, the infrastructure gets included in the crosswalks that need to be put in. And that if there are any funding issues for the ramps, please don't hesitate to speak with the Disability Commission, because that's something that we could potentially help with. And I just want that on the record. So thank you and have a great meeting.
Hatchie, you're muted, Council President.
Mr. President, I think you're muted.
Oh, Mr. Sawicki is next.
Yes, hi, thank you. This is Dan Sawicki, live on 33 Jefferson Street. After Jeannie spoke up, I figured I might as well speak up too. I think it's good that the city's putting some emphasis on the safety zone at Pioneer Park. But the speed limit there is regularly 25 miles an hour. I drive through that area every day on to and from work. And today was great. Everyone was slowing down going through. I just hope that in the bigger picture of things in the capital improvement plan, something can be added for traffic calming on other streets. All the side streets in the city shouldn't be the same speed limit as Merrimack and High Street. And I hope something that can be done that's similar being done to Pioneer Park, and that safety zone can be done throughout the city and some of the cross streets that are not main thoroughfares but are treated as such. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Cindy Scally.
Thank you, Councilor Argaman. Cindy Scally of 143A State Street. Very briefly, I just wanted to speak in support of the reduced speed zone along the Pioneer Fields. In my mind, just it's a matter of safety of our children and the parents who care for them, which is important, and is like I think a previous speaker said, it seems to me as a no-brainer. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other takers on public comment? Whoops. Just hit the wrong button. Okay, I think we're now ready for mayor's comment. So I have promoted Ethan to a panelist so he can take over the screen when the time comes. Let me unmute the mayor and we're off. Mayor Holliday, you're on.
Good evening, President Igerman, members of the City Council. A few quick updates before I give you a brief overview of a budget that you received today electronically. Wanted to let you know that our AAA bond rating was reaffirmed last week by S&P Global. Highlights from the S&P report credits our bond rating to a strong economy, strong fiscal management, financial policies and practices, our strong budgetary performance and flexibility, and adequate debt and contingent liability profile. So all good news. And what I will do is about a 7 or 8 page report from S&P, and I will forward that to you tomorrow because I assume you would all like to see their assessment. In terms of the 5-year capital improvement plan before you, I wanted to thank the council and the Budget and Finance Subcommittee for their productive review of the CIP. Each year we strive to improve on this document, and it's been truly a workable 5-year CIP plan for the city. I look forward to the council's approval of the plan and look forward to implementation, and we anticipate hopefully by the next meeting to submit our FY22 funding requests. Wanted to give you an update on COVID-19 clinics. The clinics will phase out in May. Beth Israel Leahy and Jakes at the Senior Center will hold its last clinic on May 29th, and they're doing only a couple days a week now. The Lower Merrimack Valley Regional Collaborative is now held on weekends and began at the Knockmolin School at the gym this past weekend, and their final clinic will be held on May 22nd. This collaborative has been involved in the vaccination of over 23,000 residents in Massachusetts. And I want to thank all that have been involved. They have done an incredible job. Residents will continue to have access for COVID-19 vaccination through local pharmacies and other health providers. Yankee Homecoming. I met with the e-board of Yankee Homecoming last week, and I'm happy to report that we are moving forward with a full week of Yankee Homecoming events, somewhat modified. It will be focused on supporting our local businesses in their recovery, and they will be submitting special permit applications in the coming weeks. And I ask the City Council and the Board of Health, the Health Department, and all to support their applications. The plans will comply with COVID-19 guidelines, and if conditional approvals have to happen, that's okay, because they anticipate that, and they will modify any plans based on the data as we move forward and reach the start of Yankee Homecoming. High Street Safe Routes to School. I'm happy to say this project is essentially complete with paving and striping on High Street from Buck to Ting completed. And the contractor will be working on a few punch list items over the next few weeks and will be demobilizing. We'll be using the same striping contractor from Safe Routes to Schools to complete the restriping for the remaining portion of High Street from Ting Street to 3 Rows. As you know, we have filed a lawsuit against highway safety, and that will probably take some time to wind its way through the courts. But in the meantime, we know that we have to restripe and High Street, including crosswalks. And that work will be scheduled very soon. I will let you know when that will start. Parker Street and State Street, the Complete Streets project. This project continues to move along. The paving on State and Parker within the project was completed last week, and striping will completed this week. National Grid will be energizing the hawk signals on Wednesday, and we anticipate that the light should be operational and flashing, but we anticipate there will be more programming that will needed before it's fully functional. 57 Low Streets and the Park Department's location. We were notified recently by DCAM and that the military will be proceeding with the selling of the 2.17 acre parcel at 57 Low Street and is not interested in leasing the property to the city of Newburyport. And so DCAM, on behalf of the military division, will be moving forward through an open and competitive process to sell this property. And we will need to coordinate with the military division on vacating the property and relocating parks equipment and vehicles. I'm not quite sure where we're going to put all this equipment at this juncture, but I'm sure that some of it will have to go back to Atkinson because we don't have a lot of options at this point. We've been looking for future locations for a parks facility to house staff and equipment, and we're looking into leasing commercial property. We'll be looking at a potential site tomorrow, but there's no guarantees that this will accommodate all of the operations for the Parks Department. You have a communication from me tonight regarding the interim appointment of our former building commissioner, Gary Calderwood, as the acting building commissioner. Essentially, all this happened as a result of needing our 2 hires into the building department, Greg Earls and Mr. Morrill, who bring years of building experience to their jobs, but they need to pass their inspector's license test. They have passed the first one. There's 2 more. They're in the process of doing that. And after they pass this test, then we'll be able to appoint Mr. Earls as the acting commissioner and Mr. Morrill as a building inspector. We know this is not necessarily the best way to approach hires, but we had a really difficult time in terms of filling this position, and we feel very confident in the plan that we put in place to build a new building department. I also wanted to let you know that Newburyport has been featured in Business View magazine, and it's an electronic magazine. I provided the links for you. And then just a couple important updates that we're going to do a ribbon cutting on State Street for downtown Newburyport to launch the opening of our parklets and outdoor dining and let people know that we are open for business. And I will be joining the Chamber of Commerce and our local restaurants for a ribbon cutting on State Street this Thursday at 4 o'clock and invite all of you to come and join us. The site walk that we had talked about during the Phillips Drive 75% design presentation from BSC, they will be doing a walkthrough in the neighborhood at 5 o'clock on Thursday, the 14th. And I also wanted to remind all that the Human Rights Commission, even though their iftar was canceled last year due to the pandemic, they are doing a remote iftar tomorrow night at 7 p.m. And you can pick up the link from the city website tomorrow and encourage all of you to join in this educational opportunity to understand more of the Muslim faith and their end of Ramadan. And at that, I would like to ask Ethan to take over putting up the budget slides. There's just a couple, just to give you a quick overview.
Before we go to that, there are a couple of counselors with their hands up. So let me call them in order. Counselor Tantar.
Yeah, just a point of clarification. May 13th is a Thursday. And you indicated that the Phillips Drive meeting was on Thursday, May 14th. So I'm just.
I'm sorry, it's Thursday.
The 13th. And also the downtown ribbon
It's
cutting.
the same, is at 4 o'clock, and then 5 o'clock we go to Phillips Drive.
Also, both are on Thursday, the
Yes,
13th.
yes, 4 o'clock for the ribbon cutting. It'll be a short, ceremony. We'll shut down the streets, have a ribbon cutting across the street with all the restaurant owners, hopefully all standing behind us, and then we'll head over to Phillips Drive for the walkthrough. Thank you for asking for the clarification.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Counselor Vogel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mayor, where are you going to be meeting on Phillips? Where's the location?
Probably at the bottom of the hill,
Okay.
on Phillips Drive. I don't think you'll have any trouble finding us.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Counselor McCauley is next.
Thank you, Council President. Mayor, question on the additional striping plan for High Street. We'd like to have a public viewing and solicit input like we did on Merrimack Street. I think many people found that very helpful. When do you think the council and the public will get a view of this draft plan? The first estimate I know is April, but now we're in mid-May. Is there any estimate you could share with us? Thank you.
I will work with DPS and have something to you as soon as possible. And next week we could host a public comment on the High Street striping. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Other questions before we go to the presentation? Okay, let's go to the presentation. Please go ahead, Mayor.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to recognize that our department heads are here tonight for this overview of the FY22 budget. I can't thank them for the diligence that they provided in putting this budget together, and also their hard work and dedication throughout this COVID pandemic. They have been steadfast in their dedication to maintain municipal operations and provide services to residents during these very difficult times. And I am so proud of their work and thankful for everything that they do to support operations in our city. So I'm pleased to support our fiscal 2022 budget for your review and approval. You've received an electronic copy tonight and also a link to the posting in the city website. It goes to the printer tomorrow, and we anticipate delivering 3-ring notebooks, hard copies to all of you on Wednesday. Ethan, the first slide. So the general fund, our budget for this year is an increase of a little over 3 million, or a 4.2% change, 74.9% million with our 3 enterprise accounts. Water has increased 6.1%. And again, part of that used some retained earnings, and also because of a decrease in water use and need for additional water mains and other upgrades that are needed within the water department. Similarly, you'll see a 2.1% increase in the sewer enterprise fund. Again, 7.6 million, and the change is about $160,000. Harbor Master Enterprise Fund, you will see a jump there. And part of that is because we didn't hire seasonal workers last year because of the pandemic, in particular supervisors and lifeguards. And so consequently bringing back full support for the Harbor Master operations results in a 12.2% increase. Next slide, Ethan. And if you look at the overall, these pie charts are very familiar to you at this point. As you can see how we break down our general fund. Education is 59.7% of the budget. General administration 1.4, finance 3.8, public safety 14%, public service 4.4, planning and development 1.4% of the budget, social services 3.2, and benefits non-school 10.2, capital 2.6%. And then if we break down the school budget, you'll see the actual budget to our school district is 44.7%, benefits are 9.4%, and debt is 4% and 1% to the 2 vocational schools that we support. Next slide, Ethan. And our estimated revenues, as you know, which is our funding of our budget, 84.7% is in property taxes. And as you know, we only increased our levy by 2% this year, and we're still able to balance the budget. Other funding sources, local receipts, 7.4%, net state aid, 6.5%, and other financing sources, license and permits, et cetera, 1.4%. In terms of budget highlights, what we have restored is a 0.6 passport clerk. We didn't want to bring that up to full time because we're not sure about usage at this point. The mechanic, which was vacant and we did not fund last year, we are putting back. It's a much needed position for DPS, and we have added summer employees back to support DPS work. This is mowing, cemeteries, a lot of work that we use summer employees for, and obviously the seasonal work of the harbor master. We've also added an additional parks laborer, which has been a request from the Parks Department. They actually wanted 2. We're only giving them 1 this year. We also are fully funding from the general fund instead of revolving accounts, the zoning enforcement administrator and the associate director from Newburyport Youth Services Youth Programs. We also have proposed to put the salaries back into the budget for the city council. Next slide, Ethan. In other budget highlights, capital funding, budget transfer into a capital stabilization fund to help meet our CIP funding target and stabilizes increases to annual debt service. This is an important step forward. Our debt service contingency for authorized and unissued debt and increases sidewalk line item to $350,000. It also restores funding for the police cruiser replacement program, which we cut last year. Health insurance, again, this continues to be a real struggle for the city, but we are going to establish a health insurance stabilization fund. We are receiving a premium holiday again for FY22. And what we'd like to do is take 50% of that holiday funds and set up a stabilization trust fund as we increasing health costs going forward. We continue to fund the diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives that were started at FY 2021. I can't tell you how important this training and how these trainers are costly because they're in demand at this point, as you can imagine. But it's been a little challenging in terms of doing all the work and building the team through a remote environment, but we are making great headway. And I look forward to community conversations that will be developed with essential partners, hopefully next month and through the summer. We've also established a new line item for traffic calming. We're always struggling with radar detection and other items that we potentially could use as a tool to assist the Traffic Safety Advisory Council to address traffic concerns. The school budget has been increased by 4.4% to $33.5 million. We are funding all of the priorities that initially, when the budget was presented by Sean Gallagher, were priority items on ancillary lists, but we have been able to fund every single item that the superintendent has requested this year for his budget. Other funds bring the total FY2 school budget to $37.6 million. This is a total increase of 5.3% over last year's budget. The school appropriation has increased by $12.4 million, or almost 59% since 2010. We're doing a good job funding our schools. In terms of timelines, in terms of next steps, obviously the budget was submitted today. You have your first workshop on May 12th, the 19th, 20th, 26th. 27th, the 2nd, and the 9th, we have a special meeting to approve the budget on June 22nd, and the budget takes effect on July 1st, 2021. Ethan?
Frozen?
No, I think that's the last slide,
Oh.
actually. But I wanted him to.
Last slide.
I wanted you to shut it off. Okay. Anyway, so that gives you a brief, very, very brief overview of the budget that was presented today. I look forward to our discussions during the workshops, and thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Let me just get reorganized here. I think we're on to the consent agenda.
We are, Mr. President, I believe, which consists this evening of the approval of the minutes for April 26th. There's one communication 325, which is a report from the Ordinance Review Committee. That's to go to general government. There's one transfer, 96, 17,008 from general budget contingency to police salaries, police officers overtime, police accreditation, and police longevity. That's to go to budget and finance. There's the following appointments. Appointment 242, Katie Nye of 8 Russell Terrace to the Human Rights Commission until 5/31/2024. Appointment 243, Charles Connell, 25 Hill Street to the Council on Aging until 5/31/2026. There's appointment 244, Richard Eaton, known as Rich Eaton, 4 Horton Street to the Council on Aging until 5/31/2026. Appointment 245, Barry McBride of 5 Pine Street, Salisbury, as the Assistant Wiring Inspector until 5/31/2022. Following items, when recited, are to be removed from the respective committees when the vote on the consent agenda takes place. Budget and Finance, there are 4 items, 2 communications, 314 and 319, 2 transfers, number 90 and 95, Public Safety, Ordinance 75, Public Utilities, Communication 292, and Ordinance 78. And that, Mr. President, is the consent agenda this evening.
Thank you. Councilor Tantar.
Yeah, I just wanted to note that there's what I believe is a Scrivener's error. What's listed under appointment 243 is Charles Connell, the Council Connell's brother, I think. It actually should be Charles Carroll, Carroll.
My apologies. Okay.
All right, you got that one. Thank you. Councilor Khan.
Yes, thank you, Council President. Can I get Communication 325 into the regular agenda, please?
Yeah, no problem. So that's
Thank
pulled.
you.
That's pulled, and we'll do it under item 10.
Thank you.
Let's see, so 325.
Motion to approve as amended.
Hold on a second. All right, any other items to be pulled? Nope. Okay, we have a motion. How about a second on council?
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Motion to approve consent as amended. Councilor Vogel.
Yes.
Okay, Councilor Wallace,
Yes.
Councilor Zede,
Yes.
Councilor Khan,
Yes.
Councilor Lane,
Yes.
Councilor McCauley,
Yes.
Councilor Connell,
Yes.
Councilor Shan,
Yes.
Councilor Tantar,
Yes.
and Councilor Eigenman,
Richard, I'm here.
and Councilor Devlin.
Yeah, he came during mayor's comments, so
So noted. Thank you.
put that on the obelisk. Mayor's update, what do you want to do with it?
Motion to receive and file.
Second.
Roll call.
Receive and file mayor's update. Councilor Vogel,
Yes.
Councilor Wallace,
Yes.
Councilor Zede,
Yes.
Councilor Devlin,
Yes.
Councilor Khan,
Yes.
Councilor Lane, Yes. Council McCauley,
Yes.
Council Connell,
Yes.
Council Shan,
Yes.
Council Tantar,
Yes.
and Council Ivan.
Yes.
Thank you.
Communications and communication 325 comes first.
325, which as previously noted is Ordinance Review Committee report.
Councillor Khan, go ahead.
Yes, motion to remove, to refer to general government.
Second.
Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Council President. So as folks have been hearing, the Ordinance Review Committee has been meeting since the end of last year. We were formed in October and then have been meeting pretty consistently, and I would say probably diligently in going through every chapter of our ordinance. And, you know, the objective is to kind of come forth with non-substantive type of changes. But really what we first had to do is define, you know, what's non-substantive. So I really encourage everyone, because one of the things I think that is really educational in the memo we put together is, as we do write ordinances, it's good guidelines to go through to see some of the things that we identified through the process of trying to bring some type of consistency and more kind of readability in the ordinances as they're being created. So our next step in general government is the special committee report will be discussed there. In addition, each of those chapters and their red lines that we were able to work together as a committee will be presented and then brought before the city council for 2 readings, but because these are ordinance changes, but they will be discussed and kind of introduced at general government and then brought forth. And again, I just encourage everyone to please, you know, look through the memo that was put together to understand about the process we went through. We also identified outdated areas as well as things that look like they could be updated, but those are more substantive. But there will be some type of a concordance put together as well for counselors to see sections that we found that do need to be updated that any counselor here could bring up or take on as an action item. So thank you so much. And I look forward to more discussion on this and our findings at the general government meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I want to thank Chair Khan for leading that effort. Councillor Connell and I were involved in that. And I want to highlight that it was beyond our committee's charge to actually suggest substantive changes, but we did flag them. So take advantage of that. There are a lot of things that we flagged, and any of the 11 of us can fix them with a proposed ordinance. Councillor Connell.
Yeah, I would also very briefly like to thank the efforts of Councillor Khan, because she really kept us focused on the substance. It was well organized, well attended, and I think we got quite a bit done. There was some, I wouldn't say shocking, but there were some very unusual ordinance provisions that we picked up along the way, and I think this is an effort well worth having done. Thank you, Councillor Khan.
And Councillor Connell. I guess roll call and referral to general government.
Councilor Vogel,
Yes.
Council Wallace,
Yes.
Councilor Z,
Yes.
Councilor Devlin,
Yes.
Councilor Khan,
Yes.
Councilor Lane,
Yes.
Councilor McCauley,
Yes.
Councilor Connell,
Yes.
Councilor Shan,
Yes.
Councilor Tantar,
Yes.
and Councilor Agaman.
Yes. Thank you. I wanted we take the liberty of reading 326 and 327 together.
Okay.
Motion to refer to.
Well, let him,
Midwood-
hold on, let the clerk tell the public what it is. And then
Well, communication
Sure, okay.
326 is a letter from Rick Tainter, who resides at 10 Dexter Street, addressed to the council. It's with respect to the CIP, Capital Improvement Plan, Hale Street pedestrian and bicycle improvements. It's on for a page and a half. He concludes by saying he suggests that the council consider 2 modifications to the CIP. 1, increasing the FY 2022 amount to $125,000 in order to include funding for conceptual design and making this allocation pay as you go rather than dependent on grant funding. And B, adding placeholders in at least 1 future year to represent initial phase of construction. And obviously it relates to bike and pedestrian safety along that street. The next communication is 327, which is to the mayor and Tony Fenari, Director of Public Safety, from the Committee on Neighborhood and City Services. And it's with respect to Hale Street at Squires Glen. The recommendation is to request the administration to prioritize repairs to the cement structure and the installation of the architectural fence, to allocate funds for these actions from the operational maintenance budget, and to target completion prior to 10/31/2021. It's from 3 councilors, Connell, McCauley, and Wallace, whom all sit on the Neighborhood and City Services Committee. Those are the 2.
Yeah, Councilor McCauley, you had a motion?
Motion to refer to Neighborhood and City Services.
Second.
Second.
Go ahead.
And that was seconded by
Councilor Connell, I think, seconded it.
Correct.
Yeah, Councilor Connell, as the chair, I'll defer to you if you have any comments first.
I'll keep it brief. I mean, I think that very simply, we met with a large contingent of residents who live in the area near the intersection of Hale Street and Squires Glen. And although there had been some disagreement previously, the neighborhood came together with a concrete set of recommendations based on their observation of and I'm referring now to the fence and to the retaining wall work. And it is the entrance to their neighborhood. And I think that the committee was receptive to their request, and that's why we submitted the memo. Referring to the previous matter, and that has to do with Mr. Tainter's letter, we also heard some testimony about the amount of truck traffic that zips down Hale Street toward the industrial park. It's one of the entries to the industrial area. And that is a concern of neighbors. And if you walk down that area, it is truly justified. We think about the kids walking that narrow sidewalk in proximity to trucks buzzing down Hale Street. I don't know what the solution is, but widening it has been discussed in the past. We know that that's prohibitively expensive. It's a hugely expensive project because of the wetlands along Hale Street. But both bicycle and pedestrian safety have to be addressed in some manner there. And we're going to spend some time chewing that one over in future meetings. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Chair Connell.
And thank you to Councilor McCauley for gathering up all of his neighbors for that meeting.
All right, we know what we're voting on. Let's take a roll call.
So roll call to refer to Neighborhood and City Services, both communication 326 and 327. Councilor Vogel?
Yes.
Councilor Wallace?
Yes.
Councilor Zede?
Yes.
Councilor Devlin?
Yes.
Councilor Khan?
Yes.
Councilor Lane?
Yes.
Councilor McCauley?
Yes.
Councilor Connell?
Yes.
Councilor Shan?
Yes.
Councilor Tontar?
Yes.
And Councilor Agaman.
Yes. Tell us about communication 328.
328 is a petition. It's a late file that just came in, has at least 3 pages of signatures, and it's from the neighbors who are residents of Ferry Street, Laurel Road, Briggs, Fenders, Azalea, and Brown Avenue. And in essence, it's about the city speed limit and signage in that area.
How about a motion?
Motion to refer to Neighborhood and City Services.
Need a second.
Second.
Second for, I heard Councilor Devlin.
I did too.
Okay. Yes, Councilor Lane, go ahead.
Hi, thanks. I was thinking moving that to public safety. That made more sense.
Yeah,
I think no argument.
I think speed limits probably should go there.
Agreed.
Okay, you want to unwrap the motion, try it again?
I'll just I'll accept it as friendly, and I'm guessing the second will too.
Second.
All righty.
Good.
Any further explanation on this one? Seeing none, roll call to public safety.
Wonderful. Councilor Vogel?
Yes.
Councilor Wallace?
Yes.
Councilor Zede?
Yes.
Councilor Devlin?
Yes.
Councilor Khan?
Yes.
Councilor Lane?
Yes.
Councilor McCauley?
Yes.
Council Connell,
Yes.
Councilor Shan,
Yes.
Councilor Tantar,
Yes.
and Councilor Eigenman.
Yes. Thank you. All right, we got through communications. We have a first reading appointment for Gary Calderwood as acting building commissioner. But before we do that, I actually thought that if this is a temporary appointment, it doesn't actually get confirmed. We just need notice of it. So I wonder if the clerk could take a look at Charter Section 3-5, and then while he's doing that.
I have it in front of me, Mr. President. I concur.
Okay. Well, let's check with the mayor or chief of staff if they want to speak on this, but otherwise I think we can just receive and file it. So I'm going to allow, no, he disappeared. Matt Coogan, he chickened out on me. There he is. Go ahead, chief of staff Coogan.
Thank you, Council President. I like chickening out. That was good. I just concur with your opinion. I think that's how we read Section 3.
Okay. Okay. I just want to get it straight. And thank you for letting us know it's the right way. Right way to go. All right. I would entertain a motion to receive and file.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay. Councilor Zede had a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, I did just have a question. I don't know if this is correct or not, but my understanding is that this person has been doing these inspections for a while. So based on this, you would assume that the temporary started on May 10th. Is that really the date that one would? So the charter says 90 days and then max 90 and 230 extensions. But I think this has been happening for a little while. Is that correct?
I think it has, but I don't think there's ever been a certificate filed before. Maybe Chief Coogan, if you wanted to, do I have you unmuted? Yes, you're unmuted. So this is going to run from May 10, or is it retroactive? What?
Our intention is to run it from May 10.
Okay.
May I ask another question?
Yeah, go right ahead. Continue.
Can Chief of Staff Matt Coogan, can you talk to us about the financial implication? So how do you pay for this service since the budget was finalized some many months ago? Is it a per inspection fee, or is it and is this appointee going to be available to the city 24/7 as you would expect a building commissioner to be? So in let's say you have a fire or something, you have to inspect the structure in the middle of the night, etc.
Sure, it's a per inspection fee. And yes, on call for emergencies, correct.
Okay, thank you. I'm all set.
All right. Okay, everyone know what we're doing, and if you want to know the details on how temporary officers are given these jobs and the rules and when they expire, it's that charter section we were just talking about, 3-5. 3-5 lays out all the rules. So I'm sorry, is your hand up again, Councilor Z?
Nope, not me. Sorry.
Okay.
I'll lower it.
Okay. How about a roll call on receipt and file?
Councilor Vogel,
Yes.
Councilor Wallace,
Yes.
Councilor Zede,
Yes.
Councilor Devlin,
Yes.
Councilor Khan,
Yes.
Councilor Lane,
Yes.
Councilor McCauley,
Yes.
Councilor Connell,
Yes.
Councilor Shan,
Yes.
Councilor Tantar,
Yes.
and Councilor Eigenman.
Yes. Now second reading appointments.
We have a second reading of the appointment of Bonnie Sontag, who lives at 21 Smith Street, to the Fruit Street Historic Commission until 5/31/2024.
Motion to approve on second reading.
Second.
Any debate? Roll call.
Councilor Vogel,
Yes.
Councilor Wallace,
Yes.
Councilor Zede,
Yes.
Councilor Devlin,
Yes.
Councilor Khan,
Yes.
Councilor Lane,
Yes.
Councilor McCauley,
Yes.
Councilor Connell,
Yes.
Councilor Shan,
Yes.
Councilor Tantar,
Yes.
and Councilor Eigenman.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Orders.
Orders, we have a number of them. The first order is 244, and it should be familiar to all. It came in last time and was moved to this date certain. It's an order relative to a special act to make minor changes to the Home Rule Charter. It's submitted by Councilor Eigenman, and it has supporting sections 1, 2-9, 6.5, 3-1, and 9-7.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any debate? Roll call.
Council Vogel,
Yes.
Council Wallace,
Yes.
Council Z,
Yes.
Councilor Devlin,
Yes.
Councilor Khan,
Yes.
Councilor Lane,
Yes.
Councilor McCauley,
Yes.
Councilor Connell,
Yes.
Councilor Shan,
Yes.
Councilor Tontar,
Yes.
and Councilor Eigenman.
Yes. I think that passed.
Motion passes.
All right. Next.
246, which is an update with respect to the council meetings. In essence, it's making 2 council meetings in May by adding May 24th. And perhaps it's submitted by Councilor Eigenman. Perhaps the president could speak to it.
Yeah, I'll speak to it. I'll make a motion to approve it. It does have to, I can't do it unilaterally. The president can do special meetings unilaterally, but under our rules, in the first meeting in January, we reached consensus on our regular meetings. It's not the kind of order that has to, that would be a quote matter under our charter where it has to go to committee. It's just our internal business. It would be like referring a motion to continue to committee, which would be kind of silly. So I think we can deal with it tonight. I hope you see the logic in it, which is that things were too bunched up in June. We were going to end up meeting 4 times in June and only once in May. So I hope it makes sense. If there are any questions, lay them on me.
Second.
Any debate? Everyone okay with the dates? Okay, roll call.
Very good. Councilor Vogel,
Yes.
Councilor Wallace,
Yes.
Councilor Z,
Yes.
Councilor Devlin,
Yes.
Councilor Khan,
Yes.
Councilor Lane,
Yes.
Councilor McCauley,
Yes.
Councilor Connell,
Yes.
Councilor Shan,
Yes.
Councilor Tontar,
Yes.
Councilor Eigenman.
Yes,
Motion passes. Next meeting will be May 24th. Very good.
thank you. Next item.
Order 247, submitted by Councilor Z, has a number of whereases, essentially saying Chapter 45B allows municipalities to create multiple stabilization funds. And he wishes through this order to establish by 2/3 vote, a health insurance stabilization reserve fund in accordance with MGL 40, Section 5B, as said.
Motion to refer to Budget and Finance.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Move Order 247 to Budget and Finance. Councilor Vogel,
Yes.
Councilor Wallace,
Yes.
Councilor Z,
Yes.
Councilor Devlin,
Yes.
Councilor Khan,
Yes.
Councilor Lane,
Yes.
Councilor McCauley,
Yes.
Councilor Connell,
Yes.
Councilor Shan,
Yes.
Councilor Tontar,
Yes.
and Councilor Eigenman.
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you.
Next order, Mr. President.
Yep, budget order.
Order 248, which we see every year. It is the blank now, but will be filled in. It's the budget order that we have found through painful experience that if it does not come in and go to committee, we don't have one to vote on when it comes out of committee. It's as simple as that.
Motion to refer to Budget and Finance and Committee of the Whole.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Motion to refer to Budget and Finance, Order 248, Councilor Vogel,
Yes.
Councilor Wallace,
Yes.
Councilor Z,
Yes.
Councilor Devlin,
Yes.
Councilor Khan,
Yes.
Councilor Lane,
Yes.
Councilor McCauley,
Yes.
Councilor Connell,
Yes.
Councilor Shan,
Yes.
Councilor Tontar,
Yes.
and Councilor Eigenman.
Yes. Order 249 is next.
249 is submitted by Councilors Zede and Devlin, and it congratulates the Newburyport students on their achievements 2021. specifically special recognition of Caroline Walsh, this year's valedictorian, and Dees Vadil, this year's graduating class salutatorian.
Motion to, I'm sorry, motion to postpone to 5/24.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on that? Roll call.
Moving the matter to 5/24, Councilor Vogel,
Yes.
Councilor Wallace,
Yes.
Councilor Z,
Yes.
Councilor Devlin,
Yes.
Councilor Khan,
Yes.
Councilor Lane,
Yes.
Councilor McCauley,
Yes.
Councilor Connell,
Yes.
Councilor Shan,
Yes.
Councilor Tantar,
Yes.
and Councilor Eigenman.
Yes,
It is done.
thank you. Order 250.
Order 250 is submitted by Councilor McCauley with respect to section 2-5, that all the powers in the city are vested in the city council with respect to the exercise and performance of certain duties and obligations, albeit relocation, laying out, altering of a street, etc. And he says, therefore, the city council shall review and approve the Merrimack Street striping plan submitted herewith and authorize the Department of Public Service and the city engineer to use said plan and complete the same within 14 days from the date of approval of this order.
I get a motion?
Motion to send this to a date certain of 5/24.
Second.
Go ahead, Counselor. Oh,
So,
wait, Counselor Z had his hand up. Do you have an objection or?
I was just going to discuss the motion.
Okay, well,
Whatever.
let's let Counselor
Yeah,
McCauley go first.
So we, in your packet, not only did you have this order, but you also had the additional striping plans that were there. Overall, these plans were designed and reviewed by the city engineer. There's still work to be finalized on them. But in general, let me give you a summary. From a safety standpoint, we've addressed two things. We've made Merrimack Street more uniform, put in a center line, 11-foot travel lanes, and a shoulder on each side. It's roughly 5 feet. Some areas it's more, some areas it's less. And it runs the length of Merrimack Street from the rotary all the way down to the new section of paving. I'm not exactly sure where that's going to end specifically, but it also includes in sections 2 and section 3 a specific striping plan for the Pioneer League areas as well. And that coincides with what we'll talk about later on, which is an area designated for a safety zone. In that particular area, we've worked to, through public input, engineering, et cetera, we've worked to maximize the number of parking spaces. We've put them at an angle, a 45-degree angle to increase safety. We've added a 5-foot buffer zone. It's not a bike path, it's a buffer zone, so cars can back into it without backing into online traffic as well. Our plan, collectively, we agreed to, it would be a temporary plan in this area as the Parks Commission is making changes or reviewing their overall master plan to see if we can incorporate some of these changes that we've spoken about, talked through, and had public input on. So I don't foresee the plans changing as much, but I know that logistically we can't have a second reading on an order in the same night. So that's why I asked to move it to a date certain of 5/24. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I call on Counselor Z, just a couple things I want to point out procedurally. So we will need next time a 2/3 waiver of the rules, because we also have a rule that requires things to be referred to committee. So my understanding is there were already public hearings held by public safety on this project. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So I don't want the public to think that we're shortchanging them on public hearing. They already had the public hearings. Counselor,
just a point.
yeah.
Just a point of order. I'd be glad to send it back to public safety if the council thinks that it's the better way to do that.
Okay, well,
This came in.
I got you. Well, let's hear from the other counselors. Counselor Zede.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, so my question was primarily was on process. So I guess just trying to play this out. So if we continued this, or even if we sent it to committee and it comes back out on the 24th, if we pass this order, is the intent that the actual plan is going to come into the city council, the final plan on the 24th, and then that's going to go to committee and come back out within 14 days thereafter? I'm just trying to figure out when we get sort of the final version.
I don't read it that way, but let's ask the sponsor.
Yeah. So the plan is just waiting certification, right? So this really is a final plan, and just we ran out of time to get it, as they call, stamped or approved by both city engineer and the traffic engineer, and so this time frame would allow us to have that plan certified. So
there wouldn't be any more action by the city council. When we vote on the 24th, that's it, right?
Yeah, but I'm so sorry, Mr. President. Sorry,
no, I'm asking the sponsor.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What is your intent? Are you
the intent is that the plan you see before you is the plan.
Okay, shall review. Okay, well, I'd like to recommend that this go to committee so we can fix the language, because I think because your intent, I understand what you're trying to do, and Councilor Zede is right that it's a little confusing. So I think what you mean is let's send it to the public safety, and then we can fix it there in the next 2 weeks, because it will be an approval. You are approving it. It's not that you shall review and approve, it's that the city council is reviewing and approving it. And then that way, Jamie and Tony and the gang and John Eric know that they're good to go. Does that make sense?
Great. I withdraw my initial motion.
Okay, let's just get a fresh motion. So how about you want to make a different motion to refer, and then we'll call on Councilor Wallace.
Motion to send this to Public Safety Committee.
Second.
All right, thank you. Okay, now Councilor Wallace, you're on.
Sure. I just wanted to follow up in terms of process. Excuse me. We're going to have another order with parking restrictions on Merrimack that also will be going to public safety, presumably. So the two of them could pair well in terms of timing. And and again, we have the safety zone. So there's things to talk about. So there might be some tweaks that could happen in committee. So I think it makes sense, and it should work out timing wise, hopefully.
Okay.
That is all.
Thank you. Back to Councilor Zede, and then I have Councilor Vogel.
I was just going to say that I believe, so really this order is to approve the plan, and the plan is the one that Richard sent out today. I think it was an email that was like supplementary material to order 250 or something like that. So just, again, for the benefit of everybody, that's basically that's what we should read or look at to come back in 2 weeks to vote an approval on.
Right, and that's on our webpage too for today's meeting, so the public has it as well. Councilor Vogel.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. So my thinking is that I'd like to see all three of these essentially go to committee. Let the striping go back to committee too, because I think that there's a couple, the safety zone rather go back to committee, because I found the comment during public comment to be intriguing about extending it, that zone. So I think we should have that opportunity to talk about it. And then there was some thoughts on how the parallel parking came up in the last meeting that I'd like to discuss further as well. So I'd like to see all three of these go back to committee and be discussed before the 24th.
Okay, let me just make sure I understand. So but there's two orders that cover three topics, right?
Well, there will be a third order. There will be a third that theoretically is going to be referred to committee, the parking as submitted by Councilor Wallace.
Oh, wait,
so there will be
today.
Yes, it's in the.
Yeah, let me check.
It's 77. Ordinance 77.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Okay. Councilor Wallace, you're a sponsor, I think, of all three. Does this all make sense to you? in the interest of time?
Well, for the record, I'm actually not a sponsor on the one that we're discussing right now, but
Oh, I beg your pardon.
but yes. So the parking one will get referred to committee presumably. We actually are bringing the safety zone out tonight for a vote, but so we'll discuss it and we can, at that point discuss Councilor Vogel's comments. We've already kind of thought ahead on some of the comments that were made earlier. So I still would like to bring that out to discuss it later.
Okay, well, it's out. It came out on the consent
Right.
agenda, so I guess, okay. All right, so the motion before us right now is only on Councilor McCauley's order, which is to approve the markings plan. And that's to go to public safety. And then the idea being it's going to come back in 2 weeks. Is there any other discussion on that discrete issue? Seeing none, let's do a roll call.
So roll call to refer to public safety order 250. Councilor Vogel,
Yes.
Councilor Wallace,
Yes.
Councilor Zede,
Yes.
Councilor Devlin,
Yes.
Councilor Khan,
Yes.
Councilor Lane,
Yes.
Councilor McCauley,
Yes.
Councilor Connell,
Yes.
Councilor Shan,
Yes.
Councilor Tontar,
Yes.
and Councilor Argument.
Yes.
Done.
Okay, so that one's done. And now we're on to, what are we on to?
Ordinance.
Ordinances, okay.
76, which is an ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance with respect to definitions, yard regulations, requirements of the demolition control, and the downtown overlay district. It goes on for 17 pages. It is jointly sponsored, Councilors Shan, Wallace, and Argument.
Motion to refer to Planning and Development and Committee of the Whole.
Second.
Go ahead.
All right, reason being, this was the initial start of what Director Port and Zoning Administrator Blanchet are working on to improve some of the comments in our zoning. So we are going to start with this, mainly its definitions, but hopefully the 17 pages are, well, I wouldn't say explicit, but we are planning on going to have our joint hearing with the planning board on June 2nd for this matter. So that's why I wanted to make it committee of the whole so everyone can join us for that meeting.
Thank you. Other comments? Roll call.
Refer to Planning and Development and Committee of the Whole. Councilor Vogel,
Yes.
Councilor Wallace,
Yes.
Councilor Zede,
No.
Councilor Devlin,
Yes.
Councilor Khan,
Yes.
Councilor Lane,
Yes.
Councilor McCauley,
Yes.
Councilor Connell,
Yes.
Councilor Shan,
Yes.
Councilor Tontar,
Yes.
Councilor Argument.
Yes,
Motion passes 10 yeses, 1 no.
thank you. Next.
Next is ordinance 77, which is to limit on-street parking on Merrimack Street during game times at Lower Atkinson. Specifically, it amends section 13-174 and the following zones: Merrimack Street, northerly side from Plummer Avenue to Moulton Street during game times; Merrimack Street, southerly side from Moulton Street for a distance of approximately 150 feet east during game times. Submitted, Councilor Wallace.
Motion to refer to public safety.
Second.
I think we talked about it, but someone has his hand up. I'm sorry, it's a member of the public. I can't call on you, Council. Public comments closed. Councilor Wallace, go ahead.
Sure, this is what we just were discussing. It's a piece of the whole area, and it's to limit parking during games because that's where you have so many cars on the street. We've heard from many residents, they want to have the option to park, occasionally on the street if they have visitors or if they have, something serviced at their house. So we'll work with the parking clerk to figure out if this is something we can do to restrict it only during games. But again, it's the piece to get the cars off the street and into the lot and into the spots, and keep people and children away from the travel lanes. So that is all.
Thank you. Further debate on referral? Roll call.
Sending it to public safety. Councilor Vogel,
Yes.
Council Wallace,
Yes.
Council Zede,
Yes.
Council Devlin,
Yes.
Council Khan,
Yes.
Council Lane,
Yes.
Council McCauley,
Yes.
Council Connell,
Yes.
Council Shan,
Yes.
Council Tontar,
Yes.
and Councilor Agaman.
Yes. Thank you. Now we're on to committee items. The Ad hoc Committee on Economic Development, I see this letter in here from August. I don't even remember what it is anymore, so I'll bring it in next time to receive and file. If you could remember that, Clerk Jones, thank you.
Okay.
The Ad hoc Committee on Market Landing Park, we did have a meeting on Thursday. It was very efficient. The Sasaki came in and really just spotted issues, sort of recited back to the group and members of the public that attended and were able to speak what they thought the issues were with the design that they needed to solve. And that was it. They haven't presented the solutions yet. It's available online in the recording if you wish. We don't have another meeting scheduled because we're waiting for Sasaki to tell us when they're ready to come out to the public again and present something, which I believe will be in June. Budget and finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let's start off with a motion to receive and file communication 319, which was the memo I had written regarding the capital improvement plan.
Second.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So this was a brief analysis that I did to just try and capture some of the information placed in the CIP by Finance Director Ethan Manning and the administration. And we had a brief discussion about it in committee. One of the newest parts of the CIP that perhaps I'll talk about in the next one was the addition of these capital targets. And I just wanted to break it down in a different way to show what was being proposed in terms of new debt and new debt service. The committee did discuss it briefly, and this comes to you with a 2-0 recommendation to receive and file, as it's informational only.
Thank you. Further debate? Roll call.
Receive and file communication 319, Councilor Vogel,
Yes.
Council Wallace,
Yes.
Councilor Zede,
Yes.
Councilor Devlin,
Yes.
Councilor Khan,
Yes.
Councilor Lane,
Yes.
Council McCauley,
Yes.
Council Connell,
Yes.
Council Shan,
Yes.
Council Tontar,
Yes.
and Councilor Agaman.
Yes.
And next, Mr. President, we'd make a motion to approve communication number 314, which is the
Second.
CIP itself.
Second.
Second by Councilor Tontar. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. So there's not a lot for me to fill in, as this is a committee of the whole item, and many councilors did attend and participate in the hearings that we held. Due to the scheduling this year, we did have basically dedicated CIP discussions. We had most, though not all, departments in over the course of about the last 4 to 6 weeks. And just for the benefit of those who are not familiar, the capital improvement plan is the 5-year planning tool where we go through at the recommendation of the administration and go through various projects. The committee, as has done in previous years, sends this to you without any recommendation. I simply made the motion to approve so we can get the discussion going and proceed through any amendments that anybody would like to make.
Thank
I'll
you.
leave it at that. Thank you.
Councilors, any amendments? The way the charter reads is this is approved by resolution of the city council. You can approve it as is, or you can make amendments. If you make amendments that increase spending, you have to identify the source of money. Anybody? Nobody. Oh, Councilor McCauley.
Yeah, I have a number of them by different groupings. Would it be, in this world we live in, do I do them individually, or can I do, for example, like planning all at once, or police, etc.?
What's the will of the council? I mean, if there are going to be a lot of amendments, then we could go page by page. You want to just do them in order?
I would suggest one amendment at a time, Mr. President, just
Okay.
because each one.
All right, let's start at page 1. Hold on, I got to get the document open. I don't have it handy. Just a second. Why don't you kick us off, Councilor McCauley, with your first one?
I'd like to amend. I'm looking at page 14, so that we're all on the same page. I'd like to amend line item FD004. Like to reduce that. I'd like to reduce the dollar amount in 03 by $2 million and move that out to 2024. The project is a bit out of scale. I'm not sure that we're going to be able to get to that point in terms of spending. So I think that gives us a little bit more breathing room of moving it out.
That's, I'm sorry, FD004?
4.
Yeah, so that's the renovation of the fire department headquarters on Greenleaf Street.
Yes.
Okay. I think you need a second.
Second.
All right.
So I'm sorry, point of order. Can you just clarify the motion? So it's two things: to reduce the amount and to move it. I didn't quite understand.
The amendment is to take $2 million off the 9.8 million and move it into 2024.
Mr. President, and what page are you on, Council?
It's page 22 of the CIP. Page 22 of the CIP, project detail sheet FD004. And as I understand it, the total proposal in the CIP is $9.8 million. And instead, it would be $2 million in 2020, which?
4.
So the total would be 2 million for all the years, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Further discussion? Councilor Z.
Yeah, I go back and forth about, participating in sort of individual cuts and so forth, since I have, sort of different questions about the CIP, but I certainly agree that the getting to the Greenleaf station, at least in this scale, is highly unlikely at this amount and in this time frame. And as was suggested, and as I'm sitting on the fire station committee for Station 2, which is also covering this, I think that there are some improvements that should be made to the headquarters, specifically around occupational safety and dealing with health hazards that don't require a $9.8 million addition, change, redo basically of the entire station. And I think that there should be a focus. Do I know that it's $2 million? I don't know, but I think some of the most salient ones are the airlocks for where the vehicles are and the cleaning facilities for the turnout gear would be two examples I would provide. So I'll vote in favor. That's the underlying theory there, is that this just isn't, to me, is not realistic personally.
If I might, Mr. President, just a point of clarification. I had reduced by 2 million, but actually are we striking 9,800,000 and replacing it with 2 million on 2024?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Vogel.
Thank you, Mr. President. And if I may, through the chair to the moving councilor. So we're looking at 9,800,000 and we're reducing that starting essentially next year, July for that matter, of this year. And we're reducing that down to $2 million fiscal year 24. So what happens between now and then? Are we just not moving forward on doing any capital improvement on that project? Are we, what's the, help me understand. The capital improvement program as it is a plan. We're really not dedicating any real money or voting any money in. We're simply saying this is the plan. So I'm a little bit unclear as to what we're going to be doing between now and when that quote, that $2 million is available. Could you help me understand that?
Sure. We're going to be building Station 2. And I think that I'm not sure that, in my opinion, in my position, is that we can't carry the debt of both and have both stations in operation. So I think that between the 800,000 and the 2 million, there'll be an adequate plan, and hopefully by the time Station 2 is done, then this number can go back to increase appropriately.
if I may follow up.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So you say, so you're saying, did you say the 800 plus the 2 million? So I'm a little bit unclear. So it's, does the 2022 800 stay and the 9 million goes away and then the 2 million goes into 24?
My amendment was for the 2 million to go to 24.
Period.
I did not touch the 800,000.
Okay, so you're striking the 9 million and the 2 million going to 2024.
Yeah.
So the project's grand total under the motion is 2 million, 0.8.
Thank you. I yield.
Okay, Councillor Tantar.
Yeah, a couple of things. Do we have to indicate the source of funding? I think we do. And so the source of funding, I mean, it is an amendment, we're moving it. And I think the source of funding looks like it would probably be non-exempt debt. Is that the intent of
Well, the current CIP, the current CIP, it's marked as general fund debt.
Right.
Does the moving counselor want to change that? You had a different
No.
idea? Or no, he's not changing.
I do not.
Okay, so that will be the source for 1 year. And secondly, I mean, to me, it's reasonable to put it off 2 years. And I'm not on the building committee for the fire stations, but it seems to me the $2 million is a placeholder because we don't have any designs for anything. We don't have any more specifics. So I think that's the intent, correct?
Yeah,
Yes.
he's not incorrect.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, Councillor Connell hasn't spoken yet.
Thanks, Mr. President. And I do have a question. I appreciate the efforts of the sponsor to amortize some of this construction cost over several years into the future and to keep a steadier hand on it. What I'm trying to understand, though, and I think Councillor Zeid asked this as well, and that is, what do you get for $2 million? If it's not 9.8, how do we arrive at a $2 million figure?
It's a placeholder.
It's really just a placeholder, Councillor.
Okay. And did you have any particular, not putting you on the spot, but any particular elements of the generic renovations in mind for completion in the 2024 timeframe, or is this just going back to the drawing board with the group of folks who are looking at the needs of our fire department?
So we have there's a preliminary design that's out,
right?
But that's about it. And so what needs to happen is that, again, this is my position, is that we need to not only look at that design, but also look at how we might be able to fund that. And maybe 2 million is in our non-exempt debt, general fund debt, the way we had put it. And maybe there's additional monies that might be when identified in future years for non-exempt debt. I just don't have a crystal ball as to where our debt flow is going to go, in subsequent years.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Back to Councillor Z.
Thank you, Mr. President. So in for a penny, in for a pound. So I wanted to respond, I guess, with a little bit of frustration with some of the questions. So, on the one hand, this is stated to be a plan. And as accurately put by one of the at-large councillors, it's not funded. So on the one hand, you say it's a plan. On the other hand, you ask questions like, what are we going to do for the next 2 years? Well, this CIP actually doesn't tell us what we're going to do for the next 2 years. It doesn't even tell us what we're going to do for the next year. I think at best, and I'm actually was trying to have a sunnier disposition on the CIP this year, but it sort of drives me nuts to hear these questions, is what will we be doing for the next year or 2 years is the same thing we've been doing, which is we have this general framework, which is effectively just a list of things that we think we need or may need. The $9.8 million is no more grounded in reality than the $2 million number. So insofar as essentially stating sort of what generally where things fall on a priority, generally where they go in terms of time, this is probably the best that we can do. And I think that's, for, at least for some of us, that's the intent of trying to push the CIP to be a funded plan, so that becomes a more real conversation if and when that does happen. And I acknowledge that I think we're making strides in that direction, which is probably the best news of the CIP. And I could talk more about this, is that at that point, then you could have the argument about, okay, is 9.8 the right number? Is 9.1 the right number? Is 2 the right number? So I think, in similar fashion, asking about the source of the funding plays into it. That was sort of the purpose behind my memo, was to show what the debt curve was supposed to look like, or was proposed to look like. To be honest, not a lot of interest in it, which is okay, but that's how I look at things. And I think it's perfectly acceptable to come at things from the other way and say that, even just as a ballpark, this plan isn't really doable from a debt perspective. And does cutting it to 2 from 9.8 help? Sure, it does. But it doesn't solve all of the problems that we have and all of the challenges that we face. And the last thing I wanted to say was, if you look at the mayor's proposal, the CIP is the administration's proposal, and you look at the debt projects that were proposed as part of it, the headquarters is not even included as non-excluded debt. So it's not, there's some disconnects there with respect to what's checked off on the plan and what was proposed. So I would love to actually go down this road and have this argument and this debate and get to reality, but again, trying to play within sort of the parameters of using it as a planning document. I'm just asking you to give everybody fair treatment, which is, if a counselor says, look, we're going to put in a number here and we're going to push it out, the intent basically is to give you an indication of priority and general fit, and not to hold that counselor to a higher standard than you're holding the CIP to itself. And those are my comments on that.
Okay, I gave you a lot of leeway there, but I really want to we got a long night ahead of us. I really just want to keep it on the motion on the floor. So to all the counselors, and I have 4 with their hands up now, let's just keep it within the parameters of what we're discussing. There's a motion, and the motion is to cut line fiscal year 2023 to 0, and to add at 2024 $2 million. And there's no proposal to change the anticipated funding source. You've heard, the rationale that there's the previous item, FD 003, there's no cut proposed to that. And that's a 6-point-something million dollars. If we could just stay on that, I think we could get through this more efficiently. Councillor Khan has not spoken yet.
Yeah, thank you, Council President. Well, yeah, I just wanted to really, I'm going to support this, but I just really, I think going back to what you were just saying is, I don't think we should be, I think everyone should be able to ask the questions they want. And I was a little disappointed to hear that being kind of criticized. So I will support this, but I think there were really good questions raised, and I hope we could all just be really open-minded to hearing them. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Devlin has not spoken yet. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I'll be supporting this as well. I think it's a good recognition, using this as a planning guide. This is a good recognition that, we have a list of priorities, and, building a brand new station next year, the tune of $9 million and $9.8 million is not within, it's not within our capacity, and it's not within our priority list. So I think reorganizing this, although it's not a precise number, it is a placeholder, shows that we are recognizing in this document that there are some improvements and some upgrades that need to be done to the headquarters, but not a complete rebuild or a complete, a comprehensive addition and remodel. So that's why I'll be supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Back to Councillor Vogel on the motion. You're muted. Still muted.
All right, there we go.
Now you're on.
Thank you. From my perspective, and being challenged as I was, I don't find $9 million next year or 2 years from now to be any more or less of a placeholder than the 2 million. So I was trying to understand, the 2 million a year, 2 years from now. So I was just trying to understand, as this is a planning document, what's the difference? I mean, I think we're getting it to the weeds when we start looking at $9 million versus 2 million 2 years from now. It's the same thing. And so I was just trying to understand, you know, to some degree, what the intent of the amendment was. Are we saying this is not a priority? This is less of a priority? I think that's a priority, period. And where to what day it comes to us for full funding, or what day it comes to us for an override, or whatever it might be, it will come. To sharpshoot each this line by line by line. I agree with the counselor from Ward 1. We all know what this is. This is a living document, and it's a planner, and we do the best we can. And you know, I'm sorry that if I offended, but I'm just trying to say that, you know, we do understand what this is, or at least most of us understand what this is. And again, if I offended, I apologize.
All right, let's roll call on the motion.
Okay, the motion is clear. I think everyone understands. It's Councilor Vogel.
I'm going to vote no.
Okay. Councilor Wallace.
Yes.
Councilor Z.
Yes.
Councilor Devlin.
Yes.
Councilor Khan.
Yes.
Councilor Lane.
Yes.
Councilor McCauley.
Yes.
Councilor Connell.
You're muted.
My apologies. No.
No. Councilor Shan.
Yes.
Councilor Tantar.
Yes.
Councilor Eigenman.
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you.
9-2.
So going through, we Fire Department 005, SCBA replacement. Any motions on that? Fire Department 006, any other fire department motions? I have one. So I guess I have to hand over the gavel to Councilor Connell.
Okay, any motions on fire department?
Yeah,
Councilor Eigenman.
yes, on the Fire Department 007, Fire Data Control Systems, I propose to cut entirely, all $100,000, I think it is.
I'm sorry, what page is that? Is that?
25.
Gotcha.
Second.
There's a second from Councilor Zede. Councilor Eigenman.
Yeah, in consultations with some fire department employees, there really isn't any need demonstrated for this. I think this is something that would be nice to have is new laptops, but it really is not necessary. And there are other needs that we have, and again, we're already spending over $6 million it's taken us years to get to it for something that is absolutely needed, which is the West End Station. And we also have had a discussion just now about some kind of safety improvements that are coming up on the horizon for the headquarters station, although not a $10 million project. And this kind of spending is really not warranted. There's just no need demonstrated. It's just an extra. I'd encourage you to cut it.
Thank you, Councilor. Are there other councilors who wish to speak on this matter? Councilor Khan.
Yes, thank you, Acting Chair. I do see we have Chief Leclerc in the audience, and I wouldn't mind hearing, I don't remember the details on this, but can we hear from the chief again on the rationale?
If there are no objections from the members, hearing none, I believe someone else has the ability to unmute an attendee.
If the chief wants to put his hand up, I can unmute.
Chief Leclerc.
Hold on. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can. Thank you. Go ahead.
I don't know who the president was talking to, but I don't put unnecessary stuff in my CIP. We are the only fire department, I believe, in the country that does not have mobile data terminals in their fire apparatus. We have no access to call data, 911 data, Chemtrek, any hazmat information that we need on scene. The factory explosion that we had last year, we had no on-scene data capabilities whatsoever. This is extremely needed. And it certainly keeps our crews in touch with dispatch. Right now, all the information they get on scene is what comes over the radio. This would allow them to connect with the internet and all of the sites that they need for materials on scene. That's where this comes from.
Thank you, Chief Leclerc. Councilors, as long as the chief is here, are there follow-up questions you'd like to ask any of the members? Seeing no hands raised. Thank you, Chief Leclerc. Councilors, we're back to the motion at hand. Any other questions you'd like to ask of the sponsor or opinions you'd like to express on his proposal? Seeing none, we'll take a roll call on this matter.
Roll call FD 007 to cut $100,000. Councilor Vogel.
No.
Councilor Wallace.
No.
Councilor Zede.
Yes.
Councilor Devlin.
Yes.
Councilor Khan.
No.
Councilor Lane.
Yes.
Councilor McCauley.
Yes.
Councilor Connell.
No.
Okay, thank you. No. Councilor Shan.
No.
Councilor Tontar.
No.
Councilor Eigenman.
Yes.
5 yes, needing 6, motion fails.
Thank you. And I hand the gavel back to Councilor Eigenman.
No, I've got another one.
Okay.
Page 20, project detail sheet FD 002. This is new radio equipment for the fire department. I would propose a motion to shift everything 2 fiscal years. So the first $55,000 hit would be fiscal year 2024 and so on.
Second.
And the second would be Councilor Zede. Discussion on this matter. Councilor Eigenman, would you like to take it up?
Yeah, no, I understand the position of the chief. You wouldn't put it in if you didn't think it was warranted. But I beg to differ, and especially a last motion failed, but they have radios. Again, we'd all like new equipment, but we can't always get what we want. And I don't think there was a demonstration. I did listen in on the hearings on this. You know, I'm trying to free up money that is a scarce resource that doesn't belong to us for what it's really needed for, including the West End station. And I just don't think the case was made for, you know, maybe to others, $110,000, $165,000 is not a lot of money, but I think it is. It's my opinion.
Thank you. Other councilors? I note that Chief of Staff Coogan's hand is up. I'd like to recognize him if there are no objections from the councilors. Chief Coogan, we'd like to unmute you. Chief, there we go.
Thank you, Council Connell. I just wanted to mention that this is an item that's been on several CIPs in various iterations, at least in my time and probably before. I think the administration feels that, you know, this expenditure, we've been able to hold off and postpone as long as possible, but it's now a good time to begin phasing in the replacement of these radios. I'm sure the chief also would provide information to council as well as, you know, the reason for including it in this year, and also why we decided to phase it as opposed to doing it all at once to try to soften that expenditure.
Okay. Thank you, Chief Coogan. Councilors, any comments or questions of Chief Coogan or Chief Leclerc? Seeing no hands rise, anyone else wish to speak on the council? Hearing none, we'll move to a roll call.
Okay, so this is on FD 002, moving everything forward to 2 fiscal years. Councilor Wallace, I'm sorry, Councilor Vogel,
No.
Councilor Wallace,
No.
Councilor Zede,
Yes.
Councilor Devlin,
Yes.
Councilor Khan,
No.
Councilor Lane,
Yes.
Councilor McCauley,
No.
Councilor Connell,
No.
Councilor Shan,
No.
Councilor Tontar,
No.
Councilor Eigenman.
Yes.
4 yeses, needing 6, motion fails.
Thank you, councilors. Councilor Eigenman, do you have any others that you'd like to take up at this point?
Yeah, I do. Office of Planning and Development. So that's page 40. I don't know if anyone has anything before page 40.
Why don't you proceed?
All right. Page 40. This is the PL 001 Central Waterfront East Bulkhead. I think it's a $3 million project. I just wanted to clarify the sources during the public hearings we had with the administration. They noted that the sources included a state grant of $1 million, $183,000 of cash in hand from a previous grant, $1 million in debt supported by the Harbor Enterprise Fund, and then $1 million of general city debt, but only if a federal grant fails. So my amendment would be to specify those sources.
Second.
Is there a second? A second from Councilor Tantar. Discussion.
Again, this is just reflective of what we were told by staff.
Fair enough. Councilor Devlin?
Yes, I'm just going to take this opportunity to note that this bulkhead project and the same amount has been on the SIP for my entire, in the same spot for the upcoming year for every year that I've been on the council. So it said something about the SIP that this has been an emergency for 5.5 years. I'm not saying I disagree with this. I do agree with this, but at some point we actually have to act on what's in the SIP. Thank you.
Correct. Thank you, Councilor Devlin. Any other councilors? Hearing none, I see 2 hands up. I didn't see who got up first, so I'm going to recognize based on seniority. Mayor Holliday, we're going to have to unmute you. There you go.
Thank you, councilors. I just wanted to let you know that we did do a phase 1 of the bulkhead project.
Yeah.
And we were told that we would have 10 years from the completion of that project. If you want to see that project, it's from the old Black Cow to the embayment. So phase 2 will go from the embayment to the fish pier. And I took a walk down there with Harbor Master Matt Coogan, and it has deteriorated significantly. So I was very grateful for Congressman Moulton's office to reach out to us to ask us if we would put it into their, it's not called an earmark anymore, but it's essentially an earmark. And we were one of the few projects that were accepted. So I wanted to let you know that. That's not any guarantee, and we know how the wheels of the federal government move. So we might have to move faster than that, but the $189,000 we currently have left over from phase 1 will be available to design and engineer and update the Army Corps of Engineer and the Concom permit. Army Corps will be a little more difficult. Chapter 91 is still valid. So we're in good shape to move forward with this project. And it just has moved up because of the nature of erosion and things that happen in the harbor. So just wanted to give you an update on that, and thank you.
I'll do a little editorializing. The rate of erosion through straight current and the resulting damage is almost alarming. It's significant. Mr. Coogan, your hand is up. You'll have to be.
That's a mistake.
That's a mistake. Okay, thank you. Counselors, back to the council. Any members wish to be recognized? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call on this matter.
Roll call on the motion to identify sources as specified by Councilor Agaman. Councilor Vogel,
Yes.
Councilor Wallace,
Yes. Yes.
Councilor Z. Councilor Z.
Yes,
You're muted.
sorry, I was
There you
muted.
are. Go ahead.
Yes, Councilor Devlin,
Yes.
Councilor Khan,
Yes.
Councilor Lane,
Yes.
Councilor McCauley,
Yes.
Councilor Connell,
Yes.
Councilor Shan,
Yes.
Councilor Tontar,
Yes.
Councilor Agaman.
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you.
Councilor
Um,
Agaman, you have other
Yeah,
items?
Mr. Chair, I have another one. Page 41, the next page. Planning 002, Market Landing Park expansion and rail trail expansion. I don't have any change to the amount of money, but I do have a proposal to meter the spending. The proposal is that it would be starting in fiscal year 2023, $1.25 million yearly through fiscal year 2026.
Second.
Just to explain further, I just don't think that it's realistic that we're going to be able to spend $5 million in the next, that so quickly. I think it's going to have to be spread out. And we've discussed in the ad hoc, how that would be done, where we focus on drainage, which is crucial for downtown and the site and infrastructure and so on. And the sort of, the details, benches, artwork and so on could wait.
All right. Further discussion among the councilors. Questions of the sponsor? Hearing none, we'll move to a roll call on this proposal.
This is the motion by
Shift the time frame over which these expenditures are made.
With my understanding is starting in 2023 is be 1.2 million each year in 2026. PL 002. Councilor Vogel,
No.
Councilor Wallace,
Yes.
Councilor Z,
Yes.
Councilor Devlin,
Yes.
Councilor Khan,
Yes.
Councilor Lane,
Yes.
Councilor McCauley,
Yes.
Councilor Connell,
Yes.
Councilor Shan,
Yes.
Councilor Tontar,
Yes.
Councilor Agaman.
Yes.
10-1, motion passes.
Thank you. Councilor Agaman, others?
Yes, I propose to insert the same insertion that we made last year. So it doesn't have a page number, but it would be planning 006, Brown School Facilities Renovation / Repair. I propose $400,000, the same amount as last year. The sources shall be general fund, pay-as-you-go, and state and federal grant. And the purpose is to renovate and repair the structure for affordable housing use.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councilor Zede. Discussion among the councilors first. Yes, Councilor Tontar.
I support this. I mean, the city received a grant of what, $235,000. So that leaves a draw of $165,000 from the general fund. And that should enable us, more than enable us, to at least get a design and figure out whether this is doable there. So I support it.
Good. Thank you, Councilor. Other councilors wish to address this issue? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call on the matter.
Roll call on a new item, Brown School, $400,000. Councilor Vogel,
Yes.
Councilor Wallace,
Yes.
Councilor Z,
Yes.
Councilor Devlin,
Yes.
Councilor Khan,
Yes.
Councilor Lane,
No.
Councilor McCauley,
Yes.
Councilor Connell,
Yes.
Councilor Shan,
Yes.
Councilor Tontar,
Yes.
Councilor Agaman.
Yes.
10-1, motion passes.
Thank you. Councilor Agaman.
Yes, the next thing I had was in the Parks Department. If anyone has anything ahead of me, I don't want to jump you in line, but page 69, that's PK 031, page 69. Make sure I'm on the right page.
Pickup trucks.
Right. Yeah, pickup trucks. I would propose that this be cut in half so that there be one additional truck instead of two. I think that they've made do, with without these two trucks. We now have a problem where we're going to put them anyway. I just think it would be more prudent to see if we can make do with one truck before we launch into two. And I would also point out that there's other equipment that we're buying parks, so it's not as if they're not getting anything. For example, PK 010 is some sort of a utility vehicle, so we're not stiffing them. But I'd like to meter this a bit and just do one truck.
Thank you. Other councilors wish to speak or question the sponsoring councilor on this matter? Councilor Tantar.
Yeah, I wonder if we could hear from the Parks Director. My impression is that if we had a choice, we might be better off buying the two pickup trucks in terms of enhancing the efficiency of the Parks Department and maybe drop the utility vehicle or put it off to a later year. I noticed Parks Department employees are driving their own vehicles. I'm not sure. We've heard for a number of years that that is inefficient for a number of reasons. They're insufficient for pulling the load in the trailers, and therefore there have to be multiple trips back and forth. So I wonder if we could hear from the Parks Director on that. So we get an opinion on it.
Let's see if we can get the Parks Director to respond. I don't see a hand up there. Perhaps Chief Coogan would like to respond if the Parks Director is not. Yes. Please, you have raised your hand and you'll need to be unmuted. There you go.
Good evening, councilors. Thank you. Councilor Tantar is right. The main thing is efficiency. So every morning in the summertime or during the growing season, we have, if we're lucky, a number of seasonal employees. We've got potentially crews going in 3 different directions. If we have one truck that can tow a trailer, then we're on the parks bus here, going on the long route, delivering people to different sites, but we can only carry one set of equipment to a site before we have to go back and get another set of equipment with our one truck and our one trailer, deliver it to a site and go back again and get equipment and perhaps staff and go back to the third site. And then if the staff needs to move from one site to another throughout the day, we've got the same problem. So in the past, we've had a situation where we have a mower gathering up all the tools from a site at, say, Cushing Park, driving illegally down Kent Street, driving a mower down Kent Street, loaded up with all this equipment down to Cashman Park so we can get the ball field mowed in time for NHS to be practicing on the field that afternoon. Because the truck is busy taking someone to another site or moving staff around and equipment around. We really need 3 trucks actively moving people around and equipment around all day. We currently have one machine that is devoted to weed management and equipment cleaning that takes up one trailer, and that has to be pulled by a truck. So
Okay.
that's dedicated.
So I'm hearing that there is a necessity expressed by the Parks Director. I'm sorry to cut you off. We're trying to move it along, though. I see
Of
Councilor
course.
Tantar's hand is still in the air. Did you want to follow Councilor Tantar?
No, my mistake. I
Okay.
didn't lower my hand. Sorry.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm trying to move it along. I think you've made your case. Mr. Coogan has also got his hand in the air, and I think I'd like to recognize him at this time. Mr. Coogan, your hand is up. And now you don't, there you
Yes,
go.
thank you, Counselor. I just wanted to add, the reason, outside of the operational side, the funding side of why we included this expenditure in the immediate year. We've been trying, the administration's been trying to build the Parks Department budget, over the course of several years. We haven't been able to fund in the operating budget the equipment necessary. And it's unfortunate that, while we fund, the proper equipment for DPS, we haven't been able to get there yet with the Parks Department. With the amount of free cash that we have this year, you can see in the CIP, we anticipate being able to spend out of free cash and buy both these trucks. We don't know whether or not we'll be able to do that in future years, but we know we can do it right now. Obviously, it's up to the council to decide that, but we felt like this was a good opportunity with the free cash that we had to bring on these trucks, because we do feel like we need them in the long run. We would like to have our staff no longer using their personal vehicles, not just for getting to and fro from sites, but actually hauling and moving material. That's the reason behind it. Thank you.
I'm going to give the Director Reed the last bite of the apple if you wish to add anything to what Mr. Coogan has just said.
No, I agree with what he said. And, if it's a matter of putting other equipment, the ATV that is on the list to a later date, we would opt for the additional truck.
Okay, thank you. You've responded to the questions of councilors. I appreciate you.
If I might, Mr. President Pro Tem, do we have a second on the motion? I don't have it, if there is.
I will second it if no one has.
Did I hear someone besides you?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Councilor Vogel. So there is a second. Further discussion among the councilors. Councilor Wallace.
So where would these new trucks be stored and for how long?
All right. Director Reed.
Well, at this time, they would be stored at 57 Low Street.
Okay.
And once we're out of that space, that's really up in the air. We don't know.
Okay.
Fair question.
All right. Thank you.
Councilor Wallace, your hand is still up. Now it's down. Anyone else from the council wish to chime in on this issue?
Councilor Igerman looks like he wants to jump in there.
I don't see a hand up. But
I can't raise my hand.
Oh, okay. You're right.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Councilor.
Yeah, just a couple of points. I do appreciate the offer that they cut at least the ATV so that we can again meter our spending. That's what we do. We have to pick winners and losers. We can't do everything. But one thing that occurs to me is we still never resolved the debate of sharing of vehicles across departments. It's the example that the director gave was having to work on a Newburyport High School used field. So we have a school department who is in this CIP, and we lavish, as the mayor said, we've been very generous with them in our budget. So we buy them trucks. And then we have DPS and we buy them trucks. And then we have the Parks Department and we buy them trucks. And, I have to say, after 7 years of doing this is now the 8th, it's frustrating, that we've never really heard of how we can pool these vehicles, which are all owned by the taxpayers. And that's why I'm trying to be reasonable and say, can you buy one truck? Not two. That's all.
Point well taken. I see that Mayor Holliday has her hand up, would like to speak on this matter. Mayor Holliday? Believe you're mute. There we go.
Thank you. I know this is a difficult issue, and we really have been trying to build our Parks Department for many years. You've heard me say before, we had a 15-hour position, one position a decade ago. We have 26 parks, expanded rail trail, and we have many more needs in terms of the responsibilities. There's land in street, for example, has been given to the Parks Department to be responsible for. So their jobs continue to expand. We also are responsible for taking care of at least some of the years, the shared use path going across the Merrimack River, which is a new responsibility. So they need equipment, they need a home, and we're working on that. There's no reason that temporarily some of their vehicles, if we have to be forced out of 57 Low Street, can be at DPS, but DPS trucks are very different than what the Parks Department use. And I think that this is worthy of an additional conversation, not to take up time because you have a lot of work ahead of you tonight. But certainly, I think that, let's have this conversation, pick a counselor, public safety, let's sit down and go through our vehicle use and determine this. But efficiency, and I worry about people using their personal vehicles and towing city equipment. And that's what's happening here. We need these two trucks. We have the money this year. We have extra stimulus money coming. This is the time. We did not spend a lot of capital last year. It's the time to do it. Let's give parks these trucks. We'll find places to store them at DPS in the meantime, but we're looking at a lease site tomorrow.
Thank you, Mayor. Counselor, any further comments? Seeing no hands in the air, we'll move to a roll call vote.
Again, this is on PK 031 to reduce it to one truck from two trucks. Councilor Vogel?
No.
Councilor Wallace?
Yes.
Councilor Zede?
Yes.
Councilor Devlin?
Yes.
Councilor Khan?
Yes.
Councilor Lane?
Yes.
Councilor McCauley?
Yes.
Councilor Connell?
Yes.
Councilor Shan?
No.
Councilor Tantar?
No.
Councilor Igan?
Yes.
3 noes. Motion passes.
Thank you. Counselor Ackerman, you have others?
Let's see.
Read your list, so I know you do.
Yeah, I know I do. Some of them I'll just eat. On page 81, Highway 004.
005?
Hold on, is that 81?
Yep.
No, page 80 then, 80.
Okay.
004. I just wanted to add, I propose to add another funding source. I think this is important. I don't propose to change the amount of money and nor the timing. I realize it's related to the waterfront park. But my proposal, if I can get a second, is to add checking the other box and adding limited property assessments.
Is there a second?
Second.
I hear Counselor Zede, I believe, is the second. Go ahead, Counselor Ackerman.
Well, yeah, I just want to, what I'm getting at here is, and I represent downtown, is, to put it solely on taxpayers to do this work, I don't think is fair. I think, the downtown businesses, we have spent a lot of money over the decades redoing that infrastructure. And yet, the proportion of our tax base that is actually contributed by those downtown property owners is relatively small. It's almost all of our real estate property taxes come from residents. And I just think, it would be perfectly appropriate and for us to not just use the general fund, but also ask some of these property owners to contribute to something that's going to directly add value to their property. I'm not specifying an amount. I just want the box checked so that it's on the radar and we'll figure it out later.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Vogel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through the chair, if I may. So I love that idea. I think it's very forward thinking. My biggest concern, there's two concerns. One of them, a number of those buildings are condominium projects. And I would worry about those assessments being passed on to the retail shops or other businesses that are there. And then furthermore, those individually owned businesses that aren't necessarily condominiums where there wouldn't be an assessment, that would be across the board. But what's to stop that business owner or that building owner from passing those costs on to the retail or whatever the businesses are in that building? That would be my biggest concern. I'm all in favor of putting that other in there, but when the time comes to debate that, we're going to have to look long and hard at the ramifications. I don't want to look back and go, oops, if we get there. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Other counselors? Counselor Vogel's hand is still up. Now it's down. Counselor McCauley, I believe your hand is up. Nope, now that's down. Counselor Tantar.
The Treasury Department just came out with its guidelines for the COVID relief funds, which they literally came out at 3:30. I know they're for water and sewer. 2/3 of this project is water and sewer. I wonder if the council would consider a friendly amendment to add state federal grant to this.
Yeah, I'd accept that if the second would.
Yeah.
Very good. Anything further, Counselor Tantar?
Nope, that's it. Thank you. I support
Right.
this.
Other counselors?
Chair Connell?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't want to ignore the issue raised by the counselor at large, which is how it could be passed through to tenants. And but that's a dynamic and a negotiation between landlord and tenant that we'll have to address. And frankly, it's already a problem where it's notorious that many retailers and restaurants downtown feel that the burden pass through of taxes and costs is weighted way too heavily on them and not enough on their landlords. And I agree with that, and I don't want to ignore that issue. But this is the mechanism that the government has, is to go after the owner and then try to figure out a way that the owners don't hurt themselves by making rents too high for their tenants and driving them out. That's not good for anybody.
It's going to be tricky.
That's all I wanted to say.
Other counselors? Seeing no hands, we'll move to a roll call vote on expanding the funding sources for these improvements.
HW 004. Councilor Vogel?
Yes.
Councilor Wallace?
Yes.
Councilor Zede?
Yes.
Councilor Devlin?
Yes.
Councilor Khan?
Yes.
Councilor Lane?
Yes.
Councilor McCauley?
Yes.
Councilor Shan?
Yes.
Councilor Tantar?
Yes.
Councilor Eigenman?
Yes.
Councilor Connell?
Yes.
11-0, motion passes.
Okay,
Run
I just have two more.
Go ahead.
So on the next page, 81, for Phillips Drive, I'd like to propose to reduce to the amount to $3.5 million and add again to the sources other limited property assessment. And I'll explain if I get a second.
Is there a second?
Second.
I believe that was Counselor Devlin. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, Counselor Eigenman?
Thank you. This is a project that I feel is vital, and I do want it to happen now, as does the administration. I think we're all really pleased that after all these decades, it can get going. But I think there are two things that for planning purposes need to happen still, and I hope you'll join me on this. One is I don't have any indication that there's been a value engineering yet. The 4.2, from what I understand, is kind of the, the outside envelope with everything, and includes replacement of the water line, the water main. And I realize there's some efficiency in replacing the water main because eventually it will have to be replaced, and you don't want to dig up the streets twice. I got that. But again, I don't mind, obviously I don't mind always being the bad guy. We can't afford to do everything all the time. And so if there's a way to value engineer this project and save the taxpayers, $700,000 or whatever it is, I really think we should look at that. We can't do everything all the time. And then secondly, I'm not suggesting that the entire 3.5 million or 4.2 be borne by the owners, many of whom are innocent parties. The mistakes, I realize the Cherry Hill development exacerbated problems, but the fact is it probably should never have been approved with this inadequate drainage in the 1960s. And so those people, many of them have been living there since the early 70s, have suffered. So I'm not proposing, again, any sum. I'm not saying they would even cover $1 million of it, but I do think it is appropriate, in fairness to other parts of the city, that there be a recognition in this plan that we should look at whether there's some sort of modest assessment. Again, to give a frame of reference, it wouldn't even necessarily be as large as what they did on Plum Island for water and sewer 20 years ago, which I think was something like 20 grand plus. I'm not putting a number on it. It's just for planning purposes. I'd like it in the discussion. I think it's only fair. And again, I'm proposing to reduce the budgeted amount, not because I don't want to fix Phillips Drive, because I think the water line may not be necessary strictly. And that's my pitch. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe Councillor Wallace had her hand up, and next Councillor Lane. Councillor Wallace?
Great, thank you. I do agree with some of the things that Councillor Eigenman was saying. I'm not going to vote to reduce it at this point because I don't feel like we have the answers. From what I understand, we should be testing the water main to make sure, and that's what you should be doing, is doing some test pits and making sure, knowing its condition, do we need to replace it? And then the water main may be different from the water services. So I feel like there's more information we could get, and that could be part of the value engineering. And right now, I don't even know if DPS has actually reviewed in full the plans, the 75% plan. So that's an ongoing process. So I agree that, yes, there can be value engineering, and we need to look at the water line and ask the tough questions. But we just don't know the answers yet. So I will not be voting to reduce it, but hopefully we can go through that process and actually do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Lane.
Thanks. I'm not going to echo what the Ward 4 councilor just said, but I'm not going to be voting for that at all. In fairness, I mean, they've waited 20 plus years for something to happen up there. The last thing I'm going to do is give any sort of motion towards decreasing the amount to get that done. I totally understand, get it done for the value, or, make it happen, be cost effective, but to touch any part of that right now, that just burns me. So I won't be supporting that.
I don't know if it's appropriate. The clerk can rule me out of order, but I'd like to express an opinion in this matter.
Yeah, someone should probably take your place if you are.
Councillor Vogel, can I pass the gavel to Councillor Vogel for a moment? I believe he's next in seniority.
Absolutely. Any further questions?
Yeah, I have one if I can raise my hand.
Councillor Connell, go ahead.
Thank you. It's my understanding that one of the problems that this neighborhood has faced has been the flooding, not just surface flooding, sheet flooding, diverted subsurface flooding from historical sources of water exacerbated by Cherry Hill, but the failure of that main itself, which was denied for a while, thought not to be the case until they sampled the water and found chlorine in it, which meant that the main itself was failing. So it's my understanding that that was one of the contributing factors to the misery that the neighbors in that Phillips Drive area have felt. So I understand and appreciate your desire to save some money. And I believe you're correct in asking the administration to do a thorough value engineering of this before they actually start moving the earth and grading and replacing culverts and all the rest that has to happen. But I can't vote in favor of that motion as expressed. Thank you, Councillor Vogel. I'll take the chair back if I may.
Mr. President Pro Tem, you probably shouldn't once you've spoken.
Okay, I'll hold my water on that one.
Thank you. Councillor Zede, I don't think you've spoken yet.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I'm really very torn on this. You know, I think that the motioning counselor is not trying to make any point about the priority or the importance of the project. But for me, and I'm not sure when is ever the right time to bring up any of these things, but the reality is this and Station 2 are the two big projects. And I just don't think that there's a recognition of that and sort of the level of debt that we can accept. And so I'm sort of a little bit, I'm unsure of how to tackle it. The motion on the floor is to reduce the amount. And I think it probably is important to send a message here that value engineering is important. I think that, and I corresponded with some of the neighbors about this who I think had emailed the entire council, but this is an important project. Everybody acknowledges that. We've been talking about it for several years now. It's sort of the numbers I had heard, just to be clear, early on were in the million to at the very high end outside, $1.5 million too. So when it came back and it's 4.2, was a bit of a shock. And I think that I just don't know how to handle it. Again, it's a planning document. It's not a planning document. We don't really know what we're doing with it, but I guess I'm torn on it. But really my biggest comment here is that I think this is the other big project besides Station 2, and that may help explain some of the context, for the entire CIP. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Councillor Wallace, you're muted.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to follow up. I don't know if it was the water main that broke or if it was the water services, because I know they're different materials, but I think it would be really helpful to get those answers. And as counselors who would, want to know about funding, we can do that. What type of pipe is out there? When was it installed? What type is the connections? On and on. So, again, I don't want to cut it now, but I hope we can continue to look at how it can be reduced, because I think it can. I think there's several things that you could do. And also the prices right now for construction apparently are kind of all over the place and very high with some of the materials. So I don't know what that means down the road, but who knows how accurate 4 million is to begin with. But anyways, I think we need to keep pursuing it because I think there's some options there.
Anyone else wish to speak?
I believe the mayor wishes to speak.
Oh, okay. I didn't see that. Mayor, please go ahead.
Thank you. I'll keep this quick. The reason why the price on the project increased and is being shifted to be funded in the bond with the water department is because the water main is ancient. There are different sizes of the water main that run all through the neighborhood, which has caused numerous breaks. That is all part of the comprehensive document. We gave you an overview when we presented the BSC plan because it was a public presentation. The detailed documents and why we moved forward, the engineering plans, all of the questions you're asking tonight are available to you. Please reach out to Diane Gagnon or engineering department. They will provide all of that information to you. Come to the walkthrough with BSC Thursday night. And the other piece that is encouraging, which Councillor Tantar mentioned earlier, is that one of the 4 buckets in this massive ARPA stimulus is water and sewer. So there's a good chance that this water project could be shifted over to that stimulus funding. We'll find out more tomorrow. I'm meeting with the MMA, but please don't cut this. This neighborhood has suffered tremendously. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Lane.
I'll yield for now.
Councilor Eigenman is waving.
Yep, I see Councilor Eigenman.
Yeah, just to rebut, look, I tried to make clear, and I actually have contacted, with Councilor Lane as well, some of the residents in this neighborhood. I've been working with them for years. I've been on the site visits. This is not a lack of compassion. The information that the mayor just shared with us, that they have engineering drawings on why the line has to be replaced, is the first time anybody has said that. So that's really unfair, to paint me in that manner. Again, I'm trying to be responsible with public money. And, if it's absolutely necessary to spend the 4.2, that's fine. But, this idea that I'm the Grinch, I really, really resent that. Thank you.
Councillor Tantar.
Yeah, just quickly about the way I look at this. I think there are times when some of our neighbors, residents, need financial help, and the city functions to a degree almost like an insurer. And the two wards that I think about where that applies is Ward 6 and also Plum Island, Ward 1, where with the Reservation Terrace and that mess and here. I really don't want the residents to feel abandoned. So I would have a lot of difficulty supporting this. Although I do understand it means that residents in other parts of the city are bearing the burden, but I think that's part of what being a community is. So I can't support adding the possibility that residents would have to pay for it. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak on the matter?
If I could.
Mr. Councilor Lane.
Yeah, and my apologies to the council president. I'm not trying to, paint you in any light. I'm standing up for these guys, and it's exactly what's been said. They've waited so long, and to hear like things being said, like other things around the city are gonna, suffer. These guys have suffered long enough. I've watched things happen in this city, sometimes very frivolously. And some of these people have water running through their basement. So it's not a personal attack. I totally understand. I'm all about, making it most cost effective as possible. But again, I can't support cutting any piece of this right now.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on the matter? Councilor Lane, you want to bring your hand down? And Clerk Jones, if you take the roll call, please.
Roll call on HW005 to reduce it to 3.5 million and to identify other sources. Councilor Wallace.
No.
Councilor Zede. Councilor Zede.
Sorry, no.
Councilor Devlin.
No.
Councilor Khan.
No.
Councilor Lane.
No.
Councilor McCauley.
No.
Councilor Connell.
No.
Councilor Shan.
No.
Councilor Tantar.
No.
Councilor Eigenman.
Yes.
Councilor Vogel.
No.
Motion fails.
Okay, I just have one left, and this is the next page, I think. The Plummer Spring Bridge replacement, page 82.
Okay.
I propose to shift the spending to fiscal year 2023 and 2024 from fiscal year 2022 and 2023.
Second.
Okay, if I could explain.
Please.
All right, so this came before us as a intermunicipal agreement subject to appropriation. Since that time, what we've learned is that the cost estimate came in a lot higher. So my understanding is the $600,000 is not going to be enough to make this bridge accessible by motor vehicles again. And with all due respect by the affected people in the neighborhood, I'd like to delay spending on this until we can work out with West Newbury a compromise of how we can maybe maintain the bridge as non-vehicular. And I just don't think it's a high priority. You're going to end up, the taxpayers of Newburyport are going to end up paying more than $600,000 to make it a motor vehicle access, and it's just not, it's not that important to our city. There are other things, including Phillips Drive, that I'd rather spend the money on, and that's my proposal.
Anyone else wish to speak on this? If I may yield to the mayor. Any objections? Mayor Holliday?
Quickly, thank you, Councilor President Igerman. I have been really frustrated by this project, but we have an obligation and a shared bridge and boundary to work together. Because West Newbury was able to obtain a Mass Works grant, small bridge grant, that we were able to, I figured, okay, so we'll give a couple $100,000 in this fiscal year and a few $100,000 in the next fiscal year. The hurt wouldn't be so bad. And then all of a sudden the price jumped up to $1 million. I have had one person ask for the bridge to be open. Everyone else in that surrounding neighborhood loves the fact that it's closed and would like it to be a pedestrian bike bridge. Thank you, Councilor Igerman.
Councilor Wallace. I'm sorry, I missed who was next. Councilor Wallace, you're muted.
Okay, am I on?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, Councilor Lane, if you're.
I strongly disagree with Councilor Igerman on this one. I don't think it's a good idea to have our infrastructure collapse and not fix it. I realize there are costs involved, but there are people that use that bridge, whether it's Newbury or West Newbury people, Newburyport, that come into our town, spend money. I have friends out there that keep asking about this bridge. I've used the bridge. I just, I'd rather work with West Newbury. We also need to work with them, on our water supply, keep that a good relationship. But I just don't like the idea of letting infrastructure go, that used to be there. It doesn't make sense. We need to keep our infrastructure up, whether it's a lot of people that use it or a few, but it's there and we need to commit the money. Now here, maybe we could do some value engineering here as well. But I think it needs to be replaced. Thank you.
Councilor Lane, I think you were next. Oh, your hand's down now.
Thank you.
Did you pass?
Yeah, I'm going to pass now.
Okay, Councilor Z.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to support the Ward 2 councilor's proposal here. This is not a cut or a reduction, it's a shift and a move. And I think that it actually is a fair middle ground as opposed to just letting the bridge go, which was discussed at one point. I think that this sends the right message, which is that it is important, but it's not the top priority, in terms of letting infrastructure go. Again, there's hundreds of millions of dollars of other projects we could do as well. So there's a relative value there or prioritization. And second, I think is that it is fair to send to our colleagues in the other community somewhat of a signal that, we really want to sort of come together on something that's maybe a little bit more equitable or fair based on the usage and importance of the community. So I would not have supported cutting this to zero, for example, but I do think moving it and not increasing it, by the way, which was discussed during committee, which would have been needed to actually reflect what the cost is, sends the right message, which is that this bridge is not going away. And I think everybody would love it, to be honest, if cars stopped coming through their neighborhood, but leaving the infrastructure to fail for that reason doesn't make sense to me either. So I actually think this is a fair compromise, and that's why I'll be supporting it. It makes sense to me.
Councilor McCauley.
Thank you, Chair. I do appreciate the sentiment in terms of trying to get this right in terms of the right scope and the right need and solving that problem out there. I do want to mention that there are some covenants involved here with some of these grants. So with us pushing things out, it may trigger repayment of some of those grants along the way, and it may just be the same money. We just have to pay back to the state. So I do think that the discussion should be a priority. Right now I'm conflicted whether to support it or not. I don't think it fits into this year and would be overall supportive of shifting this out as mentioned in the proposal. However, I am concerned about any unintended consequences of the implications of that. So thank you.
Mayor Holliday, I see your hand is still up. Mayor Holliday, you still with us? Your hand is still up. Okay, you're muted if you want to speak.
I'm sorry, I'm here. What was the question?
Well, your hand is still up, Mayor.
Oh, I apologize. It's not up.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else wish to speak on the matter?
Roll call.
Yeah, roll call, please.
Roll call on HW 006 is shifted one fiscal year. Councilor Wallace,
No.
Councilor Zede,
Yes.
Councilor Devlin,
Yes.
Councilor Khan,
No.
Councilor Lane,
Yes.
Councilor McCauley,
Yes.
Councilor Connell,
No.
Councilor Sand,
No.
Councilor Tontar,
Yes.
Councilor Eigenman,
Yes.
and Councilor Vogel.
No.
Needing 6, receiving 6 yeses, motion passes.
I didn't have any other further amendments.
Handing the gavel back to Council President Eigenman.
Thank you. Councilor McCauley.
I have one addition. It's to police. It would be PD 012, and it would be $36,000 in fiscal year 22. And the topic would be traffic calming devices, electronic speed limits, signs. And funding would, this is a new addition.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm making it up as I go along. And the funding mechanism would be pay as you go.
Councilor, what page were you on?
No, he's adding it. It's a new, it's adding to the police department.
Okay.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Everyone understand what it is? Roll call.
What was the amount? I missed the amount. I'm sorry.
$36,000.
$36,000.
Yeah, 36,000. Could the moving counselor tell us how many machines does that buy?
Sure. When the Public Safety Committee made its recommendation to the council and the council accepted that, we asked for 2 machines per ward. So that would be 12. They average just under $3,000 a piece. At $36,000, it should cover them all. Assuming like everything that's gone up, that should be enough.
Thank you.
We think that will give them, the police, the necessary tools to be able to respond to constituents who are concerned about speeding. I know there's an operational plan in the budget, but that really covers DPS more than police. So thank you.
Any other counselors on this item? Everyone understand it? Roll call.
Adding $36,000 to police. Councilor Vogel,
Yes.
Councilor Wallace,
Yes.
Councilor Zede,
Yes.
Councilor Devlin,
Yes.
Councilor Khan,
Yes.
Councilor Lane,
Yes.
Councilor McCauley,
Yes.
Councilor Connell,
No.
Councilor Shan,
Yes.
Councilor Tantar,
Yes.
Councilor Eigenman.
Yes,
10 yes, 1 no, motion passes.
thank you. Are there further proposed amendments to the resolution? I'm not up. Councilor Wallace.
Thank you. I would like to propose adding a project under highway for Merrimack Street safety zone infrastructure improvements. So for accessibility and traffic calming, I would propose to add them in fiscal year 22. 80,000 out of pay as you go. And then for fiscal 22, another 20,000 out of other, being from the Disabilities Commission. So I have spoken with Jenny Donahue. The 20,000 is not an exact number. She's going to speak with her commission. So that could be higher, but these are just placeholders. But things such as adding additional pieces of sidewalk, crosswalks, signage, any pedestrian lights or lights we need for the safety zone, whether we do lights or not. But if we need to make this a truly safe area, and this is just for the roadway portion. This is not.
Well, hold on, let's see. Was there a second?
I'm sorry.
Second.
Okay, you have a second. Keep going, Councilor.
And I think that's it. So
Did you give a proposed source?
yes, so 80,000 from pay as you go.
Yeah.
And
20,000 disabilities.
From other, which would be the Disabilities Commission.
And this is all fiscal year 2022.
22, so we can have it done as soon as possible.
All right, other counselors on the proposed addition. Roll call.
Councilor Vogel,
Yes.
Councilor Wallace,
Yes.
Councilor Zede,
Yes.
Councilor Devlin,
Yes.
Councilor Khan,
Yes.
Councilor Lane,
Yes.
Councilor McCauley,
Yes.
Councilor Connell,
Yes.
Councilor Shan,
Yes.
Councilor Tantar,
Yes.
Councilor Eigenman.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Any other amendments to the resolution? Going once, going twice. Let's do roll call on the resolution as amended. Up, Councilor Zede.
May I just speak to it as a whole now?
Yes, so the motion before you is to approve the resolution adopting the CIP as amended. Go
Thank
ahead.
you, Mr. President. I just wanted to make a brief comment. I had come in tonight planning to vote present or yes. Probably the biggest reason for that coming in was I really want to recognize the value and importance that the administration and Finance Director Manning brought on page 11 of the CIP, which was trying to set targets and so forth. That's something that's absolutely so near and dear to my heart, something I've been hoping for and pushing for many years. So I really appreciated that. Unfortunately, tonight's discussion, though, just continues to frustrate me. It's so difficult to look at a document where so much time is spent. And, sometimes it's a plan, sometimes it's more than a plan, sometimes a planning document. And it's just hard for me. We have residents approaching us, asking us to modify it. We had a communication about that. We have counselors adding things. We're making amendments to remove things. But really, at the end of the day, there's still a lot of sort of flying by the seat of your pants, particularly when it comes to debt. If anybody knows what we will bond or what we should bond over, say, the next 12 months, just the next 12 months, has a number that they'd like to share, that would be great. If there's anybody who says, what we might have to generate for free cash or how we'll spend that for next year, with some degree of confidence. that's really what I look for. And I think we've made huge strides in this, and that's the positive news. But I continue to be frustrated by, we move things around by year, we add things. For example, in just some recent amendments, we've now committed to spending more free cash this year when we're expecting to get the free cash transfers in 2 weeks from now. So those are my frustrations, and I want to recognize the improvements that have been made and the strides that have been made. But I'm still going to vote no, because I want to be consistent and I want to be true to sort of how I think about it, and other councilors have shared how they think about it. So I wanted to explain why. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Other councilors on the resolution? Roll call.
Motion to approve communication 314 as amended. Councilor Vogel,
Yes.
Councilor Wallace,
Yes.
Councilor Z,
No.
Councilor Devlin,
Present.
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 Thank you. Councilor Khan,
Yes.
Councilor Lane,
Yes.
Councilor McCauley,
Yes.
Councilor Connell,
Yes.
Councilor Shan,
Yes.
Councilor Tontar,
Yes.
Councilor Eigenman.
Yes.
9 yes, 1 no, 1 present. Motion passes.
Thank you. Further items, Chair Z?
Motion to approve transfer 90-155 water retained earnings watershed land acquisition.
Second.
All right, Mr. President, let me see if I can run through this quickly. So first is what this is. This is a transfer from water retained earnings to purchase land in West Newbury. That is in the vicinity of the Indian Hill Reservoir. The land is about 6.1 acres, and it's it's basically an undeveloped piece of land. I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. The Indian Hill Reservoir is not our primary source of drinking water, but this reservoir, by way of a stream that runs through this property and then through other properties as well, leads to the Artichoke, and that's of course where we do pull not all, but much of our water. Why do we want to make this purchase? The purpose of this purchase is twofold. Number one is it's to add to the, continue to add to the protection and insulation of the public water supply. It is part of both a larger discussion and a larger context. In terms of larger discussion, we recently did another land acquisition related to public water supply protection. So that's kind of the larger discussion. The larger context here is that this piece of property does not sort of stand alone. When you look at the map, it looks like a single parcel, but we were provided by the planning department with a map that shows some of the other parcels around, not necessarily all contiguous, but around it that either are protected in one way or the other, or owned by Greenbelt, or have some other mechanism for protection. And the second is by purchasing this property, we take a step towards the ability potentially to do the pipeline project that was discussed in the CIP. That's a very large project. And the idea behind it, in theory, is to allow us to draw water directly from the Indian Hill Reservoir rather than having to wait until that water comes down to the Artichoke, with really the primary idea being offering more redundancy and, in terms of being able to where you pull your water from and more control. But this purchase of this land does not seal the deal on a pipeline. You'd still have to acquire other property or somehow acquire other rights, or depending on how you choose to go with it, work with the town of West Newbury. How are we purchasing this property? This is a little bit of an interesting deal. We're not buying the land directly from the landowner. Basically, long story short, as the property became available, but the seller was looking for a quick sale faster than the city could move. So Essex Greenbelt stepped in and purchased the land essentially as a sort of temporary placeholder, giving us enough time to go through our process. So this transaction is actually to purchase the land from Greenbelt now and to simultaneously give them a conservation restriction on the land. So there's some similarities to the previous deal we just did, but it's a little bit reverse. In the previous deal, Greenbelt owned the land. We had the CR. In this case, we're going to own the land and they're going to have the CR. And the CR is going to be a little bit more flexible, the conservation restriction, than the previous one, to give that sort of, gap or latitude to be able to do the pipeline, to be able to access the reservoir if needed, and so forth. So it's different in terms of who owns the land and the purpose, how specific the CR was. Whereas on the other one, it was designed to essentially inhibit basically anything from occurring. Almost done. K&P has been involved in this. Specifically, John Eichman, who we're all probably familiar with at this point, has reviewed both the CR in the purchase and sale and has made suggestions for edits, and those have either been taken by the planning office and implemented, or they're in the process of doing so. And that will become part of and incorporated into the final document. The 155 grand, the property was assessed. This is below the assessment. The property did have a phase 1 environmental. The land was never developed, so it is basically clean and without any concerns. In terms of ongoing costs, just for owning this property, while there's not much to really do on it per se to start, we will pay property tax on this to the town of West Newbury. And then finally, to wrap up, again, in the future, there may be other acquisitions as additional properties perhaps become available by way of opportunity or otherwise in furtherance of this same goal. So I hope I tried to anticipate all the questions, but that's the what, why, how, cost, and the future. Thank you. Oh, and it's 2-0 out of committee with 1 absent.
Clerk Jones, you got the second on that?
I have, I put down Councilor Tantar.
Okay. Any other councilors wish to speak on the transfer? Seeing none, roll call.
Roll call approving transfer 90. Councilor Vogel?
Yes.
Councilor Wallace?
Yes.
Councilor Zede?
Yes.
Councilor Devlin?
No.
Councilor Khan?
Yes.
Councilor Lane?
Yes.
Councilor McCauley?
Yes.
Councilor Connell?
Yes.
Councilor Shan?
Yes.
Councilor Tantar?
Yes.
Councilor Agaman?
Yes.
10 yes, 1 no, motion passes.
Next item.
Motion to approve transfer 95.
Second.
Receipts reserved for fuel, 135,000 to DPS highway fuel, 35 in the same amount. This is your standard run of the mill. Departments buy gasoline, the money they pay for it goes into this fund. Then when DPS needs to reload on fuel, we transfer the money so they can buy it. And it's 35,000 even. 2-0 out of committee, 1 absent.
Any counselor want to speak on this one? Roll call.
Councilor Vogel?
Yes.
Councilor Wallace?
Yes.
Councilor Zede?
Yes.
Councilor Devlin?
Yes.
Councilor Khan?
Yes.
Councilor Lane?
Yes.
Councilor McCauley?
Yes.
Councilor Connell?
Yes.
Councilor Shan?
Yes.
Councilor Tantar?
Yes.
Councilor Agaman?
Yes.
11
That's
yes.
all. Sorry. That's
All
all
right.
the items, Mr.
Thank you.
President.
Thank you, Chair Zede. Chair Khan, Education.
Yes, nothing to report tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. General Government, we don't have anything. We've got something referred. I'll schedule something. License and permits.
Nothing tonight, Mr. President.
Thank you. Chair Connell, Neighborhood City Service.
Nope, not until our next meeting.
Thank you. Chair Shan, Planning and Development.
Sure. Motion to approve ordinance 073.
Second.
Go ahead.
All right, so this is one of the cleanups of the zoning language in the business park. You'll see in the ordinance, it's a very simple one that we had a joint meeting on with the planning board and the committee last Wednesday. We're changing the definition in the use table of open storage to storage warehousing. You'll notice that the language change is basically stating to add enclosed storage or open storage and then it continues to state that retail storage, warehousing with public access are specifically excluded per the section VF. So what you want to think about here are what we all probably see in our neighborhoods, the pod trailers that can be put into a storage unit. So this is something that in the business park, some of the condos could be used for that. It would not allow people to go in and access the units, but it's where they could be stored. Another item that was added to the amendment, the ordinance on Wednesday night was something that Councilor Eigenman caught, which was in section 7B of the ordinance of our Muni Code. It also has the definition of open storage in the parking section. So we've also updated that to storage warehousing. And it also corrects the parking allotment for that allowance as well from 1 per company vehicle plus 1 per employee. That 1 per employee was not there originally. So this was voted out of planning board unanimously and out of our committee 3-0 as well. Questions?
Anyone else? Roll call.
Roll call on the first reading of Ordinance 73. Councilor Vogel,
Yes.
Councilor Wallace,
Yes.
Councilor Zede,
Yes.
Councilor Devlin,
Yes.
Councilor Khan,
Yes.
Councilor Lane,
Yes.
Councilor McCauley,
Yes.
Councilor Connell,
Yes.
Councilor Shan,
Yes.
Councilor Tontar,
Yes.
Councilor Agaman.
Yes.
Thank you.
Anything further?
That is all tonight, Council President.
Thank you, Chair. Chair McCauley, Public Safety.
Motion to approve ordinance 75, safety zone designation for Merrimack Street.
Second.
Second.
Go ahead.
So this ordinance as reviewed by committee, and it was recommended 3-0 to send to the council for its recommendation, would establish a safety zone under the new provisions of MGL 90 Section 18. It creates a like school zone called a safety zone that can be targeted for areas such as the Pioneer Fields. The designation right now is Moulton Street to Plummer Avenue, which would coincide with the striping plan and other plans as well.
Thank you. In light of, Councilor Wells, go ahead.
Thank you. Just to follow up, I know we've talked about this a lot already, but I just want to emphasize this benefits so many different populations. This kind of started with the no striping and the baseball games starting, but the residents in this area need to feel safe. They do not feel safe. It's tough to cross the street. And everybody wants to go up through the park. So aside from baseball games, there's a lot of heavy usage there. And as we heard earlier, the Head Start program has a lot of safety concerns as well. Young children, preschoolers that are getting dropped off right out there. So it's really, it's very much needed. I think it also kind of gives the area and all the users some confidence that the city recognizes that this is an issue. So with a safety zone, it really is about the speed limit. You have special signs that say, 20 miles an hour here or there. But beyond that, after, if this gets approved, beyond that, you have the signs. Again, I think the city should commit to truly making this safe. And I think we have a lot of great cooperation moving it forward. So I do think we have an amendment in terms of exactly where it is, just some clarification, and also to extend it up Plummer Avenue. I don't know if right now is the right time to make that motion.
It is. I mean, if there's a motion you'd like to make, go ahead.
Okay. So I would like to make a motion to revise the text that's in the table there. So it will say Merrimack Street as it is, but then under extent is just a little clarification. I can't see. It would say between the intersection with Moulton Street and the intersection with Plummer Avenue in both directions of travel. And then we would add a second line that says Plummer Avenue between the intersection with Merrimack Street and approximately 125 feet south on Plummer Avenue in both directions of travel. So that 125 feet gets you past the school a little bit so that they too would have, the safety zone that they need there. Thank you.
Got it. Does everyone understand the motion? We need a second on the
I'll
amendment.
second it.
Okay, Councilor Vogel has seconded. Anyone wish to, I'm sorry, but if people could take their hands down, just put your hands up if you want to speak on the amendment. Councilor Zede.
I think my question is to the at-large's point from earlier is, I just want to ensure that there's harmony between this and the striping plan that we're going to approve and everything, so that I don't make a mistake and support something that then, you stripe it. And then I think that's what we all want to avoid, right? So I'm certainly happy to take the sponsor's word for it. I just want assurance that this all is harmonized and that that it all makes sense together. The no parking, the striping, and the expansion of the safety zone. all those three things that were talked about earlier. That's what I need. I just want to know they're good.
Counselor Wallace?
I can assure you it's harmonized. I've been working with a lot of different people and trying to follow up with all the details, but I think this is a great solution. And the limits that we're choosing right now are kind of like the bare minimum, you know, like we're focusing on the park and we're focusing around the school. There was discussion about extending it here and there. We're just going to keep it simple. Who knows if we could add on to it later, but the idea is that it all does go together. And the fact that the striping plan and the parking restrictions are still going to be in committee, I think if we have to tweak something there, that's fine. But the zone itself is pretty easy to just set as it is, if that helps.
It does. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Vogel?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Yes, to the Ward 1 councilor's concern, same as mine. But as it was just stated, so that striping and the parking is still in discussion. So I think this is a good start. At least we've got the zone established.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Connell?
Are we going to vote on the amendment first, or can I ask a question?
Yeah, we're gonna, is this on the amendment or do you want to wait?
I can wait.
Okay. All right, I'm not seeing anything else on the amendment. Let's call the roll on the amendment.
Roll call on the amendment. Counselor Vogel?
Yes.
Counselor Wallace?
Yes.
Counselor Zede?
Yes.
Counselor Devlin?
Yes.
Counselor Khan?
Yes.
Counselor Lane?
Yes.
Counselor McCauley?
Yes.
Counselor Connell?
Yes.
Counselor Shan?
Yes.
Counselor Tontar?
Yes.
Counselor Eigenman?
Yes.
Amended.
Thank you. Counselor Connell on the
Yes.
underlying motion. Yeah.
On the underlying motion on the ordinance 075. Counselor Wallace, if you could, did the committee consult with the city marshal, and what was his response to this proposal?
Go ahead, Counselor Wallace.
Did the city consult with, Counselor McCauley will answer that, apparently.
Well, the answer, I'm from the committee, so the committee did, and we had no concern from the marshal whatsoever.
Okay, thank you.
Others? Roll call on first reading, please.
Approve as amended. Ordinance 75. Counselor Vogel?
Yes.
Counselor Wallace?
Yes.
Counselor Zede?
Yes.
Counselor Devlin?
Yes.
Counselor Khan?
Yes.
Counselor Lane?
Yes.
Counselor McCauley?
Yes.
Counselor Connell?
Yes.
Counselor Shan?
Yes.
Counselor Tontar?
Yes.
Counselor Eigenman?
Yes.
Motion passes on first reading.
Thank you. Anything further, Counselor McCauley?
No, that is all. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Chair Tantar, Public Utilities.
Yes, motion to receive and file communication 292.
Second.
Go ahead.
Yeah, communication 292 was the memo that we received from the administration regarding electrical aggregation that triggered the Committee on Public Utilities examination of the issue. So it's just to receive and file.
Thank you.
Done its job.
Let's do roll call on that.
Roll call receiving and filing. Counselor Vogel?
Yes.
Counselor Wallace?
Yes.
Counselor Zede?
Yes.
Counselor Devlin?
Yes.
Counselor Khan?
Yes.
Counselor Lane?
Yes.
Counselor McCauley?
Yes.
Counselor Connell?
Yes.
Counselor Shan?
Yes.
Counselor Tontar?
Yes.
Counselor Eigenman?
Yes. Thank you. Chair Tantar.
Yeah, motion to approve ordinance 78 on the first reading.
Second.
Second by Counselor Vogel. Discussion.
Yeah, sure. Let me just quickly review electrical aggregation. Just a background, this will provide the city with the opportunity to act on behalf of all residents and businesses to collectively purchase electricity. The current goal is to lower prices and also to achieve price stability. This doesn't cost the city anything to engage in it, in terms of a draw on taxpayers. Potentially, according to UMass study, 2018. It could save collectively residents and businesses in Newburyport $470,000, which of course comes to around $5 per household. So it's not that exciting, but that $470,000 is approximately equivalent to a 0.75% drop in property taxes from say 2.5 to 1.75. So it's not insignificant in the aggregate. Secondly, I want to warn everyone that there is no guarantee that we will jump in. I think rates were better in February and March when we first approached with this, but there have been changes since then. The city won't jump into this unless our consultant, Colonial Power Group, and the advisory committee, energy advisory committee, thinks that we're going to nail a good price. All right, so that's always been the case. That's been the case since 2015. The timeline, if the city does proceed, is we would look for indicative prices, see how the prices are going in June and July. If the price looks good, we go in the market after that and jump in. If we do jump in, if we do pull the trigger and go into the spot market, then every resident of Newburyport would receive a snail mail mailing explaining the program, and of course explaining the fact that any resident has the capacity without a fee to opt out of the program. And by the way, residents can also opt back in without a fee. Then again on the timeline, the program would be initiated either in November or in January. All right. So you might ask, why is council action necessary? Since in 2015 we did approve the aggregation plan, and that was also approved by DPU. However, in that plan by DPU, it articulated a very specific role for the city council, and that role is that the city council would approve of the electrical service agreement and also sign it. The problem with that, of course, is given the structure, the way council operates, we could not do that in a timely fashion. So this ordinance attempts to address that. You'll note that last time we brought this into committee, it was an order. The Ward 1 councilor expressed a preference for ordinance, and in committee we considered that. Council president came in and also argued that an ordinance would be more desirable, and both of them we found those arguments compelling for two reasons. One, ordinances are easier to find and therefore would be more transparent and visible to the public. There will be considerable publicity, as I noticed, so the public will know exactly what's going on, but ordinances are easier to find. And secondly, this ordinance sets a very clear path for the council to change goals. And just a moment on that, our goals are pretty straightforward and simple right now, as articulated in this ordinance, but at some future time, for instance, we could specify a goal of using local and encouraging development of local renewable sources of power, or wind power, or we could do add-ons to assist in furthering our goal of zero energy, net zero energy. But that's not here. This ordinance just allows that a future council could add those if there was an appetite for so doing after we got a sense of how it works. So what we did in this ordinance is we authorized the mayor to make the decision while consulting with the Colonial Power Group, which is our consultant, and also with the Energy Advisory Committee. So you might ask the question, how is council role provided? I mean, the answer to this, the strategy that we're using is that we're going to tightly define the guidelines or the terms of the contract. And so the mayor would be confined to operate within those terms. And what we have stipulated in the ordinance is that the lowest price, entirely should be sought. Secondly, it should be consistent with mass renewable energy requirements. We included in the packet a description of what those are. They essentially, essentially this year it's 49.1% would be renewable. Next year it would be 51.1, and the percentage of renewables every year would increase until we achieve 100% renewables. That again, that's state law. That doesn't apply just to aggregates, cities that are aggregating electricity. It also applies to national grid and to the utilities themselves. So there's no change there. Again, approximately 50% will be renewable. It's consistent with the electrical aggregation plan that was approved by the council in 2015. We have stipulated the plan not exceed 36 months. So therefore, the council doesn't need to approve it. Because anything beyond 3 years, we do have to approve. But also, it doesn't make sense. It's not unlikely that there would be contracts for more than 36 months. That's not something that occurs in the spot market. But we did want to extend it to 36 months. Again, in the UMass study, I think it was 45% of municipalities do go out 36 months. It provides, if you get a good price on the spot market, it does provide for that price stability. You like to take, the opportunity to snag that lower price and keep it in place for as long as possible. So, the advice was to go as long as you could, which is 36 months. Finally, we have stipulated it should be in the best interest of consumer, which is a necessary statement just to assure that there's not some other thing. So the committee voted on this 2-0. Councilor Wallace had to go to another meeting because we have a lot of meetings, and we urge you to support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Zede.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thanks to the committee for taking some of my feedback. I wanted to just to jump right into it, make a motion to amend and add section 14.93, which would just be the next one, and it would say, upon execution of a contract, a list of offers that were made available to the city, including but not limited to the cost per kilowatt hour and contract length, will be provided to the city council via a communication. And then further, along with submission of the budget, the city council shall be provided with an annual report indicating the current national grid or other prevailing provider standard rate and information related to the savings or excesses paid by customers in the city of Newburyport.
I would accept that as a friendly amendment. I actually had thought about, we had talked in committee about regular reporting on the part of the mayor to the city council on this. So I'd accept that as a friendly amendment.
Okay, thank you then. May I continue?
Who is the seconding party?
It would have, well, since it came out of committee, it would have been.
No, I mean tonight when we move to approve.
We need one.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Oh, I see. Sorry.
Did you have, okay, so that amendment is in as a
Okay.
friendly amendment. Everyone understand?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, Councilor Z.
Next, I have the to add section 14.94, and it said, the residents of Newburyport shall be notified on the city's website of the city's negotiated rate, the national grid or other providing prevailer rate, and finally, it's any surcharge being imposed by the city and their right to opt out. So this is just an addition for an annual notification, and the city's website's fine. It doesn't need to be mailed to everybody or anything like that. If I could get support on that, I would appreciate it.
Second.
Could you repeat that? The
Sure.
details on that?
Yeah, sorry. Annually, comma, the residents of Newburyport shall be notified in writing on the city's website of the city's negotiated rate, National Grid or other provider or other prevailing provider's rate, and finally, any surcharge being imposed by the city, as well as their right to opt out of the program. So if I may, Mr. President.
It's a web page notice.
Yeah, basically every year you say, look, it's June 30th. This is what you're paying under the city. This is what National Grid, or I had to write or other prevailing because I don't know if National Grid will exist forever. Here's what they're charging. And then if the city is imposing any surcharge, here's what it is. And if you want out, here's how you do it. That's what on the city's website.
I'd accept that as friendly. Maybe add information also that that there isn't, people can opt out without fee, and also that they can opt in without a fee. So
Okay.
if someone has chosen to opt out, they could jump back in if that annual report indicates that they get a lower price by so doing.
Yeah,
Counselor Shand, are you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so that's in as a friendly. Clerk Jones, you got it? Or if you're a little unclear, you could have Counselor Z.
I trust Councilor Z will send me the text.
I will. I have it, and I'll CC the chair for double review to make
Okay.
sure.
Thank you.
One
we're
last
two-
one, Mr.
keep going.
President, and then I'm done. Section 14.95, in the event the city wishes to impose a surcharge on electricity, then it may only do so by 2/3 majority vote of the city council and concurrence of the mayor. And I can explain what that means.
There's a second, so we can discuss it.
Second.
Okay, go, what is
So,
that?
one of the things that we learned during this process was that the city has an option to add a surcharge of 1 cent per kilo, one 1/10 of 1 cent. Is that right? 1/10 or 1/100th of a cent per kilowatt hour, which is actually the same charge as Colonial Power. And that can be charged by the municipality and then put into a fund. And I'm just suggesting that if then that's not included in this ordinance right now, it's not even proposed, but if you wish to do it in the future, essentially the city to jump in on part of get a cut as well, that should be done by the city council by a supermajority and with concurrence of the mayor. That's my suggestion.
Could I ask a question? Just point of information. Chair Tontar, so what is I know that Colonial, that's how they get paid. So in the aggregation plan we approved in 2015, I think it stated that 0.001, it did.
Yes.
But what about this issue of a pass-through? So
You mean what they refer to as an add-on? Is that what, I think that's what Council
Yes.
Z is referring to?
Correct.
okay, but so we didn't pre-approve that in the plan, right?
No,
Okay, I got it. All right.
no. So, I mean, as I understand the difference, the ordinance would have to be amended in order to add that. And I think what Council Z is suggesting that just that one change to the ordinance would require a 2/3 vote of the council. I mean, the mayor has to approve any ordinance, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's the only difference, whether it's 2/3 of a majority.
Correct.
I would prefer not to go to, I can't accept that as a friendly amendment. I would prefer not to go to 2/3 vote on that. I'd prefer to allow future councils to vote by majority vote on it.
Okay, so we have a motion. It was seconded by Councilor Devlin.
Yes.
Any other councilors wish to speak on requiring a 2/3 supermajority in order to do the add-on, which we don't have yet, but in future? Councilor Vogel. You're muted. Oh, maybe you didn't wish to speak. I thought you had your hand up.
No, I do. I wish, I'm sorry, I didn't hear Councilor Tantar's last comment about not supporting, or what was that?
Yeah, this one he's not supporting as a friendly amendment, and his
I see.
argument, if I understood it, was he wants to keep it a simple majority for future councils.
Understood. Yes,
We're not actually approving it tonight, but
I understand.
other councilors. Roll call on the amendment.
Roll call on the amendment. Councilor Vogel.
Right, I'm going to vote no on that amendment.
Thank you, Councilor Wallace.
No.
Councilor Zede,
Yes.
Councilor Devlin,
Yes.
Councilor Khan,
Yes.
Councilor Lane,
No.
Councilor McCauley,
Yes.
Councilor Connell,
No.
No.
Councilor Shan, no. Just to go up, just make sure I've got things right. McCauley is a yes, Councilor Connell is a no, and Councilor Shan is a no.
Yes.
No.
No,
Councilor-
correct.
Councilor Tonto
No.
and Councilor Eigenman.
No.
Motion fails.
Any other amendments? Counselor Wallace.
Sure, I have a question that may lead to an amendment. In section 14-91, where it references the Newburyport Electrical Aggregation Plan, will that plan ever change? And if so, would this ordinance need to be changed? I guess my first recommendation is maybe we just cite the year this happened. Or just a little more specific information, but what if that plan changes?
Well, then it would be it's whatever's in effect at the time.
Okay.
Right, and also the answer is if we do change it, it would have to be submitted to DPU, State Department of Public Utility again. We'd have to go through that whole process if we change it.
Is it worth it to say the Newburyport Electrical Aggregation Plan of 2015, just for clarification, or?
Well, but then you'd have to, if you ever change the aggregation plan, you'd have to change the date.
Yeah.
Okay.
But let me recognize some other counselors. Sorry, Counselor McCauley.
Yeah, I just have a general question. Well, I have a couple of general questions. One.
Well, first, can we just resolve? Did others want to speak on Counselor Wallace's question?
I'll yield.
Counselor Z, did you want to speak on that one?
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm, but if the electrical aggregation plan were to change, that needs to come before the council
Yes,
itself.
it
because
does.
That's how it was passed in the first place. So
Yeah, under state law.
I don't see anything wrong with putting in the date here, but then you just have to remember, if you ever update, you need to update both. You need to vote on that, which I think was done by order. And then this, you would need to have a corresponding amendment to the ordinance to harmonize them.
Okay. Now, Counselor McCauley.
Thank you, Council President. Couple of quick questions. We have a couple of solar projects, blue solar coming up. Will this type of aggregation prevent us from reaping the benefits of a in-town solar field over the landfill? How do we work both?
So I didn't ask specifically on that. We did. I mean, anyone who's receiving, doing net metering right now continues to have that benefit. Anyone who has any cut continues to get that benefit. But you're asking if.
Let me clarify. Yeah. We're going to have a industrial sized array above the landfill that is supposed to generate, enough electricity for half of Newburyport. How is this going to impact our ability to reap that benefit, enter into that type of agreement that benefits Newburyport while at the same time dancing around the spot market as well?
I would ask the council president to recognize Mark Capadonna from Colonial.
Right. And just for the public, Mark is Colonial wrote our aggregation plan in 2015. We were in a 3-year contract with them, but that's being renegotiated. So go ahead, Mark, if you could answer the question.
Yes, Mark Capadona, Colonial.
Oh, if you could shout.
Oh, yep. I hope that's a little bit better. Mark Capadona, 5 Mount Royal Ave, Marlborough, Mass. Councilor McCauley, just so you know, mutually exclusive will have no effect on that solar array. They're going to have offtake for that solar array. If they don't have offtake, you may be able to help them with some other things that aggregation is actually underway, but it will have no effect. Those two things can act mutually exclusive. You can have the aggregation and that solar array work in town, or you could actually meld them together if somebody so desired.
If I may, Mark, how do we figure that out? You say you could, well, how do we make sure we do?
Believe it or not, under state statute, the SMART program allows for municipal aggregation to choose an off-taker, act in SMART, and you could take some of that local power and actually deliver it to low-income customers or the actual aggregation themselves.
Okay. Councilor McCauley, is that helpful?
It does. I think it just adds more uncertainty a little bit. I think there's a process here, but it goes to my second question, and I'm trying to identify the downside of the spot market and these contracts. We did see, we read in the papers that because of storms and shortages, we saw consumers taking advantage of on the spot market with contracts along the way. So I'm assuming that's a fluke, and we have downside protection. And I asked that because we're doing a lot of work to save $5, right? So what's the downside here that residents are going to have to weigh when they opt in, opt out?
So
first Chair Tantar, and then Mark can chime in.
Yeah, what happened in Texas is very different from that. Those are those private sellers of electricity that you get solicitations in the mail all the time, and they had riders in those contracts that said that if the spot market went up, that the consumers would have to bear the impact of that. There's no such thing in this. That's the advantage. That's why price stability is such a critical portion of this. So this is one of the major benefits of this for consumers in Newburyport is they are avoiding the possibility of that happened. That's my understanding of it. Mark, are we on the same page here?
Absolutely correct. This contract is a fixed contract, full requirements, load following. What the contracts were down in Texas was a spot market contract that floated with a price each and every month. So there was no fixed price on those. This does have a fixed price. It would protect against any one of those shocks that was coming.
Thank you. Councilor McCauley, did you have other questions?
Thank you very much for your time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Z.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to say, to me, the downside here is that we always talk about the positive potential, which is that we lock in a rate and rates go up, and then we say, look, we save money. And the downside is that, if we lock in a rate for 3 years and energy falls, then you're paying more than what the spot market is. So that's the price of the stability, is the risk that you don't have it. The protection residents have is they can opt out at any time, but of course, do they know they can, and so forth, which was sort of the idea behind some of the amendments that I proposed. So I think that's the downside is, you could be wrapped into a 36-month contract potentially, right? And things can go either way. So I don't want to say the word gamble, because I think that's not an accurate word for what's happening here. It's a little bit smarter than that, but there's an element of risk there, and it cuts both ways.
Thank you. Councilor Devlin.
Yeah, the two problems that I have with this are related. The first one is the state highly regulates a utility to make sure that it doesn't take advantage of the population, but also to make sure that it's there when we need it. I'm troubled by the fact that then it also allows these independent conglomerates to purchase power from somewhere else on a market, and that they have an advantage of. I think the last time we had someone speak on this, the doctor who was saying that the national grid can only bid on one day out of the year, yet these things can bid at any time of the year. Is that correct? Through the president, this is for the committee chair. Is that correct?
National Grid has 2 days. They bid on a winter rate and a summer rate. So it's actually twice a year.
Okay.
And our aggregator would be able to select the particular time. And so, generally, since rates go down lower in the summer, that would be the time that you would likely jump in, from what I understand.
It just seems antithetical, and there's nothing we can do about it, to the regulatory scheme that's been set up and foisted upon National Grid. But the other question I have is just on the issue I have in the question between a resident can opt out at any time throughout the year or the 36 month contract, and can
Yes.
back in at any time during the year and during the 36-month contract.
Yes.
So thank you. So the only problem I see with that is, even Councilor Zeid's amendments, you're not going to know day in and day out what National Grid is charging. So it just would seem that would be a very difficult determination for residents to make.
Well,
hold on. First of all, can I get a motion to extend past 11?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? I'm sorry, roll call.
Roll call to waive Rule 2B, I believe. Councilor Vogel?
Yes.
Councilor Wallace?
Yes.
Councilor Zeid?
Yes.
Councilor Devlin?
Yes.
Councilor Khan?
Yes.
Councilor Lane?
Yes.
Councilor McCauley?
Yes.
Councilor Connell?
Yes.
Councilor Shan?
Yes.
Councilor Tontar?
Yes.
Councilor Eigenman?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that. Councilor Devlin, can I try and get an answer to your or a response? I think the chair of the Energy Advisory Committee had his hand up, Michael Strauss. Would that be helpful? Or did you want to just keep going?
No, I'm done. Yeah, that'd be helpful.
Okay. All right, thank you. Mike Strauss, go ahead. You're unmuted.
Hi, thank you. Mike Strauss, 56 Federal Street. So there are 2 points. First, the utilities are buying the energy from the same energy suppliers, the same power plants that we are. So that's because the state has deregulated the energy market. Right. So it's not separate energy sources, it's the same ones. It's a bidding process, and the utilities have strict rules. There are looser rules for aggregated communities. The second point is, we know day to day what the utilities are charging. They set the rates every 6 months, and you know what the rate's going to be for 6 months. So that's fixed. You know it every 6 months. For us, it would be that you know it for 2 years or 3 years at a time. And so that comparison is there all the time, every day, on the website, on your bills. So that will be there for people to make that comparison whenever they wish, particularly with Councilor Zeid's amendments to make sure that that information is up and available. So that's all.
Thank you. Let me go back to Councilor Devlin.
Yeah, if I can respond to that. It's not, my 81 and 86-year-old parents are not going to be able to determine every day what the rates are for National Grid, particularly if they got moved off of National Grid without, without making that a proactive action. So, they're not going to be watching the energy market, and it's not going to be published every day Counselor Zed's amendments made it an annual publication of what the rates are. So unless I miss something, it's not happening every day.
Not every day.
Okay, anything else? Anybody else? All right, I think we've talked this one out. So as amended, let's put the
First reading.
put it out for first reading.
First reading ordinance 78. Counselor Vogel,
Yes.
Counselor Wallace,
Yes.
Counselor Zede,
Yes.
Counselor Devlin.
No.
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 Counselor Khan,
Yes.
Counselor Lane,
Yes.
Counselor McCauley,
Muted.
No.
Counselor Connell,
Yes.
Counselor Shan,
Yes.
Counselor Tontar,
Yes.
Counselor Eigenmann.
Yes.
9 yes, 2 no. Motion passes first reading.
Chair Tantar, is there anything else?
I'm all set. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Chair Vogel on rules.
Nothing this evening.
Thank you. Good of the order, Counselor Z.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to gauge comfort and interest in meeting in person for budget workshops. So my intent is not to put on anybody on the spot tonight, but I've asked for this in the past. If you could let me know where you stand on that, that would be appreciated, because I scheduled Wednesdays for Zoom because we're just not really ready yet. But I would really like to, as chair, have some of the meetings or potentially all of the future workshops in person, and just trying to gauge if we need to be set up for remote, or if there's a sort of consent across the council to just attend in person. I could provide more details on locations and all that kind of stuff. And the second one was just food for thought as far as council business goes. I really think we need to work on shortening up the beginning of the meeting, where we go through the consent and all of the stuff that we do, because we don't get to real business at times until 8:30 or 9 o'clock. And really the bulk of the work we do on any given night is the stuff that's coming out, not the stuff that's going in. So I just want to put that out as food for thought, that we should find a way to get to our business of the day by 8 p.m. so that we can do the other stuff, quite honestly, when we're a little bit gassed at the end of the meeting, to send things to committee and so forth. It's a suggestion or a food for thought. Thank you.
Thank you. So there's a straw poll. Councilor Tantar has his hand up.
Yeah, the answer to that question as to whether or not my position on workshops is dependent on whether or not the public's going to be allowed to attend, and how many people. I don't know what the mandate is from the governor right now. It may be that by continuing to have remote meetings, that more of the public can attend, and than if we do it in person. So that would be a concern of mine.
Other councilors on the straw poll. Councilor Vogel.
Yeah, I'm pretty certain that social distancing still applies. I'm pretty certain there's probably some number. I'm comfortable still with remote.
Thank you. Councilor McCauley.
Thank you, Council President. I'd be comfortable going in person, but I do want to appreciate the fact that via Zoom and having remote and being able to share documents online has really been more transparent than less. And so I'd encourage you, if we met, to be able to have kind of a hybrid type of solution where any member who would like to Zoom in can Zoom in, and those people, in person can be in person. But again, like I said, the transparency of being able to share documents and details and diagrams. I, for one, I think our committees have tackled some pretty complicated issues. And if it wasn't for Zoom and being able to showcase those documents for everyone to see, I think it would have been very difficult. So again, that's not cold water on meeting in person. I just, am hoping that we can find a way to blend the benefits of remote and the convenience of it for our participants and constituents to also being able to negotiate in person. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Connell.
Yeah, I think my response is somewhat conditional. I don't know what the physical surroundings might be, and maintaining social distancing is key. So if we were to be held in council chambers, I don't think we could do it. If we were held in a larger space with a more up-to-date ventilation system and some greater social distancing, that might change my feeling about it.
Thank you. Councillor Khan.
Yes, thank you, Council President. I would, we had Education Committee in person, actually, and I would say, while in theory it'd be nice to be, back together for the budget hearings, I think it's difficult, and I'll say just wearing masks and talking, sometimes the audio or just hearing each other was difficult, and I do think Zoom is working well, and I appreciate some of the comments earlier about sharing documents, watching it, and public participation being more easy. So I would think it's okay, in my opinion, to keep doing it virtually right now.
Thank you. Any other councillors on the straw poll before we move on? Councillor Wallace.
I would be fine. I like the hybrid idea. And I like that people can do what they're comfortable with, but I actually have a question. Has there been any progress on the equipment that we might need for hybrid? And can we even do it in the council chambers, or would we have to do it at the community center?
Well, it's, I'll call on Councillor Z in a minute, who may know better, but I don't think there has been any progress on the city council chambers. I could be corrected. Councillor Z, Clerk Jones, do you know anything?
Yeah, I would just say that, the city did go out and solicit bids on wiring up several different rooms across the city, most notably the senior center, council chambers, and I think there was maybe one or two other locations, and the number came in pretty high. It was, what I heard was around $250,000 or more, and then so that was a problem, and then it was met with some resistance to being able to actually use COVID funds on it. So basically that's out, that it's not happening based on my understanding. So there are less expensive ways to do hybrid meetings. Of course, that was the professional, full on installation of everything. I think that some less expensive solutions could provide 80 to 90% of the same quality. But that was the purpose of my question. My understanding, and I can always be corrected, is the current limit on indoor gatherings is 100 people. And I think that there's been general agreement that the chambers probably is not going to allow that, unless it's just counselors, and even then. So there are other locations, as the mayor mentioned. Senior Center is going to be clearing of vaccine clinics and so forth. So there are ways. I hear what everybody's saying. I do think I actually think we need to get back to meeting in person. I think that there's something about that, as we've talked about, but not just that. I think we owe it to the public too, actually, to be seen and to debate in person. So I think that the argument on Zoom cuts both ways. We certainly have had more attendees at different times, but it's less interactive at times, I think, in other ways. So I hear you, and I'm trying to figure out what those less expensive, suggest those less expensive ways to the administration to see if they want to pursue them. And the senior center would probably be my goal, because I think it's the best mix. The auditorium, as we all know, the acoustics in there are terrible. So the senior center is probably the best in-betweener between the council chambers in terms of size and the auditorium. So we're on for Zoom on Wednesday night, and we'll just figure it out from there.
Okay, other councilors, other items? Yeah, it's the same thing for the council itself. As much as I'd like to meet in person and do hybrid in the council chambers, doesn't look like it's on the cards anytime soon. But the senior center, as soon as they stop needing it for vaccines, which I think is now. So that's what I'm aiming toward. I haven't figured out the technical details, and I'll try. Anything else? If not, I guess motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Yeah, I don't have a roll call sheet. Here we go.
Yes.
Councilor Vogel.
I think it's unanimous.
Yeah, I know. Councilor Vogel.
Yes.
Council Wallace,
Yes.
Council Green,
Yes.
Council Devlin,
Yes.
Council Khan,
Yes.
Council Lane,
Yes.
Council McCauley,
Yes.
Council Connell,
Yes.
Council Shan,
Yes.
Council Tonto,
Yes.
and Councilor Agaman.
Yes. Thanks, everybody. We did
Good
get a
night.
lot. Good night.